Something tells me that today will be a happy day in
Hello
hell.
everybody, and welcome to this very special review. We are going to be doing a review today of Hazbin Hotel. This is a show we've been, like a lot of people, waiting a long time for, and we can't wait to talk about it. So, I figured to go ahead and start this review off by talking a bit of the backstory of how we got introduced. Now, personally with me, I found it basically through social media. I found it like just browsing through like art and accounts on like animation, and eventually I just found a random clip, like a random 1.5 minute clip of the pilot that is yet to be released. This was like maybe a few months, 2 to 4 months, somewhere in there, before it got released. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Tay. Was I the one who told you about it first, or did you find out about it on yourself?
I'm trying to remember. I think you told me about it. It was not very long before the official pilot drop, and I think you had come across some of the clips that were posted and started sharing them with me.
Yeah, because it basically says like, hey, have you heard about this? It's like, this is some odd thing. And I was kind of like, what is this? You know, it's like, because this is like, okay, so it's not a show. It's like, and I found out, oh, okay, this is something that's going to come out as a pilot. And I'm like, huh. And, you know, the more I looked into it, and the more I got intrigued. And then when I eventually found out the basic plot synopsis, that's where I got kind of really intrigued. Where it's like, well, basically, hell is facing overpopulation, which, personally, with me, that's a brilliant hook. It's like, I'm interested. Tell me more.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
or at least the interesting part is, like, it seems like that's the reason at first. Yeah, especially because even though the idea is pitched that hell may be facing overpopulation, it seems as though, like, the people in hell aren't really struggling with that notion all that much.
Right.
They don't really seem, if it was overpopulated, they seem to be handling it pretty well. But that's what makes the show interesting. It expands more on that aspect of it, and you realize, oh, it's not all that it seems to be.
So, yeah, we basically got interested, and then basically we both were, all right, we're hooked, and we're awaiting now for the pilot episode to be released. So, we were in college, and it came out on release day. It was during a class day. Came out in, like, the middle of the day, and we basically were trying to hold off our urge to watch it until we could go to where I was living at the time and watch it there. And I remember, you like, anytime you saw any like image or stuff in there, you're just like, no, must resist, you know, until
I was trying to keep from busting.
And then the coolest thing that I remember is once we finally got out of our last class, you basically asked me, can we run to our car? And we literally physically ran to the car to get to my house as fast as we could so we could watch the pilot as fast as we can.
I remember that very vividly.
Yeah. Then we got home, set it up, found it on YouTube, watched it on the TV, wanted to watch it properly, watched it. We're very happy with it, and actually made a review right out on the spot. We made like a little, just impromptu little discussion about it. That's still on the channel, so I'll pop a link somewhere, either on the top or the description, both, for the initial impressions. And then basically, we were like, okay, so a pilot, and now next step is they got to pitch this to someone, to a studio, to a publisher, etc., to get this going. I afterwards became like a Patreon member. Yeah,
and you donated all your money.
Yeah, all my money, you know, and stuff, and it paid off because due to the show's success, I got all this stuff behind me. About what was it? How long was it until they got picked up? Like a few months, 6 months, a year?
Oh, it felt at least like a year. I could be wrong about that. It's been a while since I've gone and looked at the official marketing timeline, but it feels like it was at least a year. Like I just remember that we were in the dark for a while.
I remember vividly, I was helping my brother mow yards for that, and then I get the text from you, and then I look, and then I see A24 picked it up, and I'm just like, oh my gosh! And that made the rest of my day. I was pushing the lawnmower, like happy, skippy, trampy. It's like, yay!
Because that is a studio that has done not very much wrong in my eyes. They produced a ton of amazing stuff. So I'm like, oh, A24, they're in good hands.
When I saw A24, I'm like, you know what? There is no better studio for this that I can think of. Then basically we waited until now here we are. Full season finally released in January of 2024. And that's what we're going to talk about. Now let's talk about the actual show itself. What I'm going to first start with is a little premise little deal, just for those who are watching who may not be in the loop. Probably not many, but just in case. So basically the little prologue that's given at the beginning of the episode, which gives a lot more context to kind of what's going on and how things came about the way they were. It says here, once there was the Golden City, Golden Gates, which is heaven, basically, ruled by the beings of light, which included, at the time, Lucifer, who is Charlie's father in the show. He had many ideas for creation. He was full of creativity and stuff, but the angels did not approve of his ideas, thought it was too chaotic, and that it was going to be dangerous. So they basically created Earth and all that stuff without him, and eventually created the first humans, Adam and Lilith. Not Eve, Lilith. Adam apparently was trying to basically be a macho man, try to take complete control. Lilith didn't want it, so she went off and then basically met Lucifer. Lucifer came down to kind of talk with her. They basically became a couple. They fell in love. Together, they wanted to give humanity the ability to choose free will, so that's where the apple comes in. They give it to the second wife, Eve, and then after that rebellious act, they released the curse of evil into the world, and the order of heaven was, quote, destroyed. So they punished Lucifer and Lilith by casting them into hell, never allowing Lucifer to ever see any good things that came about of his choice to give humanity free will. Lilith used her power and her love of music to grow the power of hell, and heaven was not liking this power growing. So basically that's where the extermination comes in, the yearly exterminations, to keep them at bay and to prevent their numbers getting to a dangerous level that makes the higher-ups of heaven feel like they could be a legitimate threat. And also Lucifer, he basically lost his drive to create. He just kind of went stagnant. The hope of hell basically now succeeding was passed down to Charlie. And then Charlie, her motivation is she doesn't like the extermination. She hates seeing her people get slaughtered every year. So she comes up with the plan of rehabilitating demons and redeeming them to get into heaven to avoid the exterminations and deal with the overpopulation problem. And she's going to do this with the help of herself and her beloved cast that we get to see. Okay, so that's basically the prologue / setup of the show.
By the way, just out of curiosity, I want to hear from you. Do you think that the concept of hell and versus heaven that's elaborated on in the show, do you think that was a plan for, like, writing-wise from the beginning, or do you think that was retconned to be the case after the pilot?
That's a good question, because, see, my initial thought was, I don't think in the pilot they said it was heaven's angels that were doing the extermination. I thought initially that this was just something they had to do to deal with the said problem, that they had no other option.
Maybe. But it's also, like, because it's, like, revealed later in the actual show that basically the exterminators are part of, like, a private army, and, like, residents of heaven aren't even necessarily aware of the exterminations happening.
When it got into when I heard the backstory, I'm like, oh, okay, so that's why they're happening. Because in the pilot, I guess either if I missed something or whatever, but it wasn't explicitly said that it was heaven coming in and doing this. You know, I thought this was just something that just had to be done. With this, what would change for me was like, oh, heaven is heavily involved in this. Okay. And by the way, just a heads up for all, this is a full spoiler discussion. So, if you do not want to be spoiled, go watch the show. It's only 8 episodes, 22 minutes each, okay? We're going to talk in depth because that's where the fun comes in. All right, so let's talk about the characters, I think, first. I think that's what we'll do. Let's first start with Charlie. She is basically one of the, if not the most likable demon in hell. She's positive, optimistic, she's expressive, loves to sing, loves to be friendly, unlike what seems to be a lot of the majority of the hell population. What about you, Tate? How would you describe her?
I would basically say that, like, in terms of what she's trying to do, she's probably the most likable resident, but I get the feeling that most everybody is irritated by her.
Hi, mister.
Yourself.
Like, she's one of those people who is suffocatingly kind. She could kind of get blindsided by her own ambitions. She's kind of like Sally Hawkins' character in Happy Go Lucky, where she's not absent-minded of everything that's happening. She's happy and friendly, but it's almost kind of like a force of nature upon everybody else. And not everybody is super happy with that. Because it's like she's always trying to find ways to make something work out. Some like with her inner circle, she'll consult people, but other times she'll just move in on with like a plan for if she's dealing with strangers.
Yeah, and that's an interesting way to put about it, because I didn't think about that. Because yeah, she is super nice. It seems to be an annoyance to certain individuals in Hell's population, and I also put down that also the niceness is also can be in certain situations throughout the show a weakness. You should maybe be more assertive, but I would say when we talk about that's where Vaggie comes in. Vaggie is that part for her. There are moments where she will be assertive, she will be confrontational if it's absolutely necessary, but she avoids it if she can.
Yeah, obviously, Charlie's a product of her upbringing. I think one of the main reasons she's probably the most good resident in Hell is because she's like a direct descent of Lucifer and Lilith, who tried making existence a creative and wonderful place, but it went in directions that went against heaven's best interests. Mm-hmm. So I think like even with her ending up in Hell, they were still instilling in her this sense of just trying to be really good, even though we'll talk about Lucifer later. He's not really like the best person, but he's like more caught up in his own deal that brings out like the bad qualities in him. You were talking about like how Vaggie is sort of like existing to ground her. I don't necessarily agree with that. A lot of times it seems like no matter what Vaggie tries to put up to try and level her out, a lot of the times Vaggie just ends up being dragged into whatever Charlie is trying to go through with.
Yeah.
So she doesn't even really like ground her all that much. I guess there's like a semblance of somebody there who can, especially because her parents Charlie's parents are absent almost the entire time, and so Vaggie is kind of like somebody who steps in to try and keep her from doing everything that just comes to mind and heart. But at the same time, she's almost as helpless as everyone else because that's just how Charlie operates.
She grounds when it benefits Charlie, but will let Charlie take the reins when she's like happy. Because everything Vaggie kind of does is basically does it for Charlie. In terms of Charlie, it's another thing. She gets, emotional, which is a great, in terms of character trait, something to latch on to. She does not like seeing friends get hurt. She is really upset when friends or people she cares about get hurt. And she has a showmanship, personality to her, which is great for the context of this show, considering it's a musical. Next one I want you to take the reins on, because I want us to talk about Angel Dust. And am I safe to say that's still your favorite character of the bunch?
Probably, yes.
Okay, well, tell us about Angel Dust. Describe him for us.
He's so fucking hot. Honestly, like he's like one of my biggest cartoon crushes of all time. But that's kind of separate from like what he's like in. Well, not separate, but that's just like an aside. In the show, he's a very interesting dude. He's like Hell's biggest porn star. But at the same time, he's at like the lowest of lows in the situation he's in. Because he's caught up in an abusive relationship with the demon Valentino, who owns his soul. Like, it's not just a relationship he can walk away from. He's literally like owned like a slave. A huge part of his story is examining their relationship and how it is that Angel, in the pilot, he kind of puts on a front that he's going through with the idea of redemption because it's just like a free place. The hotel is a free place for him to crash at. I mean, in the show, it's more obvious that part of it is that he doesn't dislike Charlie, Vaggie, and the other residents of the hotel. It's that he wants to try and stay away from Valentino as much as possible. He wishes short term that he could just have a working relationship with him, and then probably long term he's probably gonna find some way to murder the shit out of him. He's very charismatic. He's quite the showman. Tries to put on the idea that he's always on the up and up, that there's a bit of an air of superiority that he has over people, which I think is more of it covered in when we talk about Masquerade, of he puts that up more as like his own little defense mechanism and rationalization for the situation he's in. Because like ultimately he's fine just being another person. He's somebody who's street savvy. He's somebody who could definitely hold his own in a fight. He's part spider, and we love him. Oh, and I think that both Blake Roman and Michael Kovac do a magnificent job of voicing him. They're almost like exactly the same in how they portray him, and I think they're both to me synonymous with him. They have a co-ownership over him, but I know Blake Roman is now the canon voice, and yeah, perfectly cast.
You know, he puts on his persona, but he's also very mocking of the situation. But there is a sense that he also would like to be proven wrong, but he doesn't have much confidence that he can be, in terms of that he can change, or that there is hope for this. Because basically, his act he puts on, and like the stuff he does in his free time when not working for Val, is to basically escape from his horrendous life.
Oh yeah, because like for the time being, he's, at least until a bit later on, he's low-key kind of a doomer. He buys into the idea of hell just kind of being a place where, you know, it is what it is, and there's not much that's going to change it. In the pilot, he was getting down in the dirt with the idea of just sort of like claiming turf after the exterminations. He just sort of embodied the chaos of it all at first, and he genuinely I don't think had any hope for it actually working, no matter how much he may have wanted things to really change.
It's really quite something. It's a dynamic that goes throughout, and there's a slight like changes that happen within him, but you get to see his side. And in terms of Angel Dust, I would say he might be my second favorite, purely because of the Masquerade episode. That really put it up. And we'll get more into that.
If he's not your number one after that episode, then you are in favor of domestic violence.
Okay, you heard it here, folks. You heard it here. We're taking you to court.
You are engaging in abuse apologia by him not being your favorite.
Let's do Vaggie next. Girlfriend of Charlie.
Moth.
Moth. Pretty much everything she does for the sake of Charlie. She's very supportive and protective. We'll say the things that maybe need to be said in the moment that Charlie may not want to, because she's a little too nice.
She flings her spear around quite a bit.
That spear, she pretty much has with her almost all the time. I mean, she can bring it out whenever she wants, it seems. She's also, in a way, a balanced kind of, I guess, but maybe like a voice of reason in a way in certain situations. Like, you know, Charlie's extremely optimistic. Some other characters are extremely pessimist. She kind of isn't in between. She doesn't fully know if, like, the whole plan can be happened, but she says, like, we don't know. We know it's never been tried before. Just because it's never been tried before doesn't mean it can't work. And, you know, she has issues with, you know, the view of herself, and also, like, kind of trust issues in general.
To kind of tack on to what you were just saying, it's something that's interesting is I heard a fan theory that when she was a human, she may have been a human trafficking victim. And that would sort of give a bit of credence to why she has so many trust issues and is very aggressive and defensive. as a person, but then I'm obviously then like in the show it went with she is a fallen angel. She is an ex-member of the extermination crew from heaven, and now she's in love with the princess of hell. Quite quite the turnaround.
Yeah.
She's become a much better person.
In terms of how she progresses, she also becomes a bit more trusting because she hides the fact that she's an angel all the time until it was revealed by force. And after that's been remedied and reconciled with Charlie, it seems that Vaggie is more open and more trusting, kind of with Charlie and maybe also a little bit in general.
In a way, she's kind of fortunate that she's in the position she's in, because I think one of Charlie's longtime goals is to help her become somewhat of a leader alongside her. Because especially like with what was happening in episode 3, where she basically put her in charge of trust building exercises and attempted team building, but Vaggie at the same time, just because of who she is, she didn't really know how to run with that. She just immediately, I think she tried like overcompensating and becoming very boisterous in ways that she really isn't. In terms of how you would normally conduct yourself socially, she basically only ever raises her voice and takes control of something when somebody she cares about is in danger, which has almost always just been Charlie up to this point. The goal of the show, I think, is going to be very interesting if there is still some aspect of it to where the end game is for everybody to end up in heaven if they can. Because, like, what's Vaggie gonna do in that situation? Yeah. As an ex-angel, she didn't want to be in heaven from the conference that Charlie was going to, where she summoned basically like the High Council of Heaven. I'm wondering, is she going to have to consider herself already kind of like redeemed as is, and maybe hell is where you would stay? I'm trying to figure out how her dynamic of that would work. It's like, oh, is she going to go to heaven again, but things are going to be better if Charlie gets her way in how she's seeing this operation play out? Or are they going to just be like, you know what, fuck heaven, but we could make hell be good instead?
You bring up a little interesting diss just to carry this on. Like, I don't know if she will want to go to heaven per se or be redeemed. Like, is she even like does she even need to do that? Does she even need to prove that? Or is that something she like doesn't really care about? Not for the sake of she wants to be bad, but for the sake of like, I know what heaven's like. I'm not interested.
It's like, what about the soldier that like sliced her eye out? Is she still in heaven? Are they gonna like, if she went to heaven, would they just be like run into each other and be like, hey? Well,
it was Luke, right? Luke was the one who sliced out her eye. Because basically, it's revealed that like, oh, heaven's kind of a fraud, in the line from the song. They're like, angels can do whatever and remain in the sky. So it's like maybe hell would like to. It would be funny for hell to retaliate by like, oh, well, we can be better than you. Because like, oh, you have like all these moral standards you preach to us, but you don't even follow them yourself. Oh, now we've got a competition.
Or maybe another way that I'm thinking about is like, maybe it wouldn't be that bad, because maybe heaven is overall like a not bad place, but Adam was just like a horrible face for it.
Oh yeah,
because like he was like the main representative when they would want to communicate something with the rest of the Heavenly High Council, and he was literally just nothing but a disrespectful ass. So it's like now that he's out of the equation, would that automatically make heaven like a much better place? Because it seemed as though, or maybe not much better, because there is still very much a genocidal element to it, even if he's not there.
Yeah.
Other members are still very much on board with going into heaven and cleansing it a bit, even if he's not there. So it does make me wonder, like, at least in what ways does him dying shift the dynamic of how heaven is going to go moving forward? Because he was basically like, his celebrity status just comes from being the first human, right?
Yeah, he
So it's
mentions
like,
that a lot.
he kind of does.
Yeah, mentions that all of humanity came from his nuts, and he brought that up more than once.
Oh yeah, he snuck that in there multiple times.
All of mankind came from these fucking nuts!
Almost all of his dialogue has to do with himself.
I know, I fucking rock.
Yeah,
Hey.
almost.
Anyways, I don't mean to get talking to him because we're still on Vaggie.
Yeah.
But
Well, we got a bit for there, but anyway, he was kind of on the list, so we kind of already went over him. He's just basically an asshole. That's it.
he's definitely. But honestly, like, even in the way that he was portrayed, we might talk about him a bit more later. But yeah, I think that he was probably one of my least favorite characters, just in general. In the way he was portrayed, I think he could have been portrayed better, not behavior-wise, but maybe just as a character. But we could probably touch on that a bit more later.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would absolutely not blame anyone if Adam was their least favorite character, because I feel like he's designed to be that way. Yeah, and I basically, we kind of referred to this in regards to Vaggie already, but, she pushes through even if she has her own doubts for Charlie's sake, When Sir Pentious comes in, and Charlie's like, please let him stay, he's our first, someone who actually came here to get redeemed. And then she's like, okay, I guess he's not much of a threat with or without the war machine, so we'll let him stay. So, even if she has her doubts, she will put them aside for making Charlie happy. Is there anything you want to say before we move on to the next character?
Vaggie's all right.
Okay. All right, well, how about this? Next one, Alastor, which...
He's, in a way, he's kind of like the face of the show. Yeah. Like Charlie obviously is sort of like the obvious face, but Alastor is like he's the character that everybody is like really focusing on.
Yeah, well, I do think I saw a note. I needed to know if this is 100% true, but I think Alastor was like the first of the Hazbin crew that Vivian drew.
I could believe that.
So,
especially with those fucking deer ear hair style, that's absolutely like an OC that she couldn't let go of kind of style.
Yeah, but I honestly, I think it was for the benefit, because I have no issues with the way he looks. I think it sets him apart. He's a very recognizable figure now. In terms of
agree. It's like the ears are goofy as shit, but I don't have like a story-based problem with them or anything. I just think I think they're real goofy, but I think you could argue that may also be part of the point. I would say he has a goofy side. The way that he's portrayed, absolutely. I guess so.
Like
he's a horrifying goofball.
Yeah, horrifying goofball. That's it. Yeah. Anyway, so Alastor has a proper personality, acts gentlemanly, but still puts in his actual thoughts into something. Like when Lucifer comes in, it's like, pleasure to meet you. Oh, you're shorter in real life, kind of deal. Has that tendency to insert little things here and there.
I don't want to lose this point, but I think that's funny for him to bring up because I forget what dynamic it was exactly, but there was a moment in the show where he was with another character, and you're looking at it, it's a side view of him and them talking, and he is much shorter than who he's talking with. And it's not Lucifer. It's somebody where the person he's talking with is taller than Alastor. You're
talking about Zestiel? Is that what you're talking about?
It could be. I'm But I mean, like, not necessarily, because he's taller than almost everybody. But I mean, like, it's somebody else. But I'm completely blanking on it, I think. Or maybe I just hallucinated that shit.
Isn't Alastor supposed to be like 7 foot something? Like proportionally? Isn't that what they said?
Could be. If I was standing next to him, I'd clock him in at probably like 6.5.
Yeah, something like that.
While I'm still thinking about, like, the little quip he made about Lucifer's height, but I think that's funny because, like, it's sort of like a little way of how he's trying to exercise some power, even though the question about, like, what is his connection to Lilith is, like, constant, is, like, more and more being encroached upon. Like, I think people are definitely coming up with some ideas, but I think the answer is going to be given very shortly in terms of their dynamic. But I think, in a way, maybe that's sort of like a cute little visual gag of how he's trying to sort of exercise power over the next little man. Even though when he's talking about Lucifer being shorter, he's talking about Lucifer, who would definitely be more powerful than he is. It's just like, I think, a tiny little bit of power that he's trying to exercise.
But he has a very interesting dynamic in terms of how when the show goes on. Because initially in the pilot / the beginning episodes, seems that he's helping out because he wants to see this thing fail for the sake of entertainment. Now with what we know about someone basically controlling his actions, which number one theory you said is Lilith. Everyone thinks it's Lilith. That's a pretty good guess, and I think that's what we're going to stick with until it's either confirmed or proven otherwise. But now we don't know how much of that is him. It might not even be at all him. Every single action that he has done in terms of the hotel is now questionable. Now it's like, was that him? Or was it whoever has his leash? And there are bits where it's like, I definitely think he's in control. For example, when he has to basically deal with the shark gang to save Mimsy, you know, letting off the steam, perhaps letting off the steam of being on a leash, you know? Mm-hmm. And just, like you said, having that sense of control as, like, a mental reminder of, like, that he's powerful, or maybe, like, he's doing that to, like, also maybe distract himself from the fact that he's under someone's control. It's a very, very interesting dynamic and route he goes down in terms of being revealed that in terms we don't know exactly how much in control he is. And when eventually, which I assume will happen in the later seasons, he gets off the leash, what will he do then?
I'm gonna be honest, you mentioning all this is like something I hadn't considered before, but it's pretty cool. I look at his dynamic with how and why he's working with the hotel that way. Because if we're going based off of pilot, which is, you know, supposed to be canon, it looks as though he just sort of like stumbles upon the idea of what Charlie's trying to do. But what you're saying is that it's becoming more and more possible that he's being controlled to sort of like look after Charlie and try and keep things running smoothly, even if it's not something that he wants to do. Because like even when he's fighting the loan sharks, right before he starts tearing into them, he says, I believe, like, it's time to remind everybody why I'm here. And he starts, it's like that could be, I could see what you mean now, where that's interpretable to mean either if he's doing it of his own volition, he's definitely like taking pride in his role as the real governor of the hotel, the real person running over things. Or it could be that he has been sent, possibly maybe by Lilith, to like really be backing Charlie up.
And the other thing is like his little feud he had with Lucifer that could potentially also be there, because if Lilith knows that their relationship is, you know, in bad shape, perhaps he got Alastor to behave in a way and like imply like, oh, I've been like a dad to Charlie too, to get Lucifer and Charlie to reconcile their relationship. That could also be a thing. Yeah, you see where this is all going?
Like, maybe that's why there's like spice between him and Lucifer.
Yeah,
in terms
it could
of
be
like
both.
who's going to be like the father figure
Yeah,
to
it
Charlie.
could be both. It could be both. He's doing this because maybe Lilith told him to, but also he's having fun with it because in spite of like, oh, this is Lilith's husband. Well, this is my chance to have a little fun, you know?
I mean, like, the main issue that I see with thinking that he's doing all this because he's being controlled is, like, it makes me wonder then, like, how much of what he's doing is part of his character. Because if, like, none of it is really by him, then, like, he's kind of just like a shell. So maybe it'll be expanded on, but then that makes me kind of worried in like, well, how are you supposed to feel about him going forward if none of what he has been doing has really been like who he is as a character, and it's all just he's getting his strings pulled by somebody else.
Right, and I think, well, that's the thing. It's like, how much is it? We don't know. And that kind of keeps the mystery suspense of it. And also the other mysterious thing is, like I said, is that if he's able to get himself off of the leash and everything's him, what's he going to do? Is he going to basically be let loose like a wild dog? Turn bad, like in the sake of, like, against the hotel? You know, it could go anywhere, really, and that's kind of the interesting thing. You know, and there's things that he will still not do. Like I was saying, like, at the end, when he had his, like, last little music bit in the finale, you know, he's like, altruistic Alastor dying for his friends. Sorry to disappoint, that is not how this ends. So he does not want to be seen as a hero. He does not want that on him. There are parts in here that I think are absolutely, like, by him. Telling the egg minions to find out, like, about the angel, or he gets to kill all the shark mob people to let off his steam.
Or how he sort of like has this own air to him regarding something like his beef with Vox. How they kind of are like, and that might be genuinely him because it's like boiling down to TVV radio sort of fight with how they're choosing to spread their influence. Or when during the final fight with Adam and his radio staff breaks, he has his own little like moment of panic. I don't think that would necessarily have been brought on if he was basically a conduit in the fight as opposed to actually being his own character. It's like, oh shit, I guess I am touchable.
Let's get back to it, yeah. You know, and like I said, the theory is that it's Lilith, and I think the reason why we think that is because, one, they both disappeared 7 years ago. That's already suspicious. And so far as we are aware, she is like the only one that we are aware of that has the power to maybe do such a thing with someone of Alastor's power level. It's a very mysterious area where it left off. Lastly, in terms of Alastor, just close up, he also loves meat and loves eating it raw.
Oh yeah, even though he's got like the whole deer Sona thing going on, he really likes meat.
Yeah, they like meat and had it for breakfast. Like, whoa, what a nice breakfast. All right, let's move on to Nifty.
We're all gonna die!
Basically cute and adorable, but definitely has an insane side. That's kind of the general one sentence.
Because because it's important to note that like she was basically initially she was spawned into existence by Alastor. I believe that she's her own soul, but she's connected to him. I definitely don't know if Alastor, like, off the cuff would have just, like, invented her the way that she is. It's like, yeah, sure, cleaning lady. You could think of a hotel needing something like that, but at the same time with, like, her personality, she's almost, like, I think she would be way too manic for him to, like, want to create on his own. He definitely doesn't hate her. I think she's the only person I think who like repeatedly touches him and like he crawls all over him.
And he lets her.
He treats her kind of like a pet. Yeah, I think her origin. Everybody is saying that she was like a young housewife who, to my understanding, I've heard people say that she may have like killed her husband or something, which I fully 100% believe she could have.
Yeah. I can believe that.
But yeah, she's down there, and now she's just kind of like a super manic pixie dream girl in her own way. She's very useful, but at the same time, she's kind of a wild card. She's extremely horny in her own way, for mostly for violence.
She's horny for bad boys. That's a constant thing she wants.
Ooh, he's a bad boy.
She attaches herself to Pentious and dumps him in the same episode. and her dumping Pentious, honestly, like, it could be either a pacing issue with the show, or it could literally just be like how she viewed him. It's honestly a toss-up to me, like the likelihood of it, because she definitely seems like somebody who would scramble from one fascination to the next, while her special interest, of course, will always be cleaning.
Yeah, cleaning, wants to fight the bugs, constantly fighting the bugs.
Especially, yeah. And in the first episode, she's not even being like very practical about it. She really likes killing bugs, but like she'll like stab at them with sewing needles. Mm-hmm. She's not even doing anything that's like that's not like a really like a super productive way of going for it. She just really enjoys the act of killing.
Yeah, well, for at least the pest creatures, absolutely. And she's basically one of those that, like, she looks cute, she looks harmless, but deep down she probably can kill you.
I don't know if I would even say she necessarily looks harmless, because to me she's always given off that ultraviolet aura. Even with her just being like idle, because she's the most giddy character in the show, easily. Yeah. Like I think she is taken. I think like the way she died, she probably. Well, actually, before I say anything more about that, I think that I think she's on like every upper. Oh
yeah, she seems extremely high, like to a sense of mentally out of control. You see this throughout. Like I would say the three big examples is one, which is one of my favorite jokes of the series, is when they're doing the trust exercise, and then she says, "Sometimes I murder little mother bugs in front of their children as a warning to others." And then you see the veins in her eyes come about as she's saying that, and then she jumps and everyone gets back because they're like, "Nope, I'm not catching that." And then she hits the floor and it's like, "Yes, pain!" And then just constantly throws herself off for more pain because she enjoys it.
Sometimes I kill mother bugs in front of their children as a warning to others. Yay, pain!
I was also going to speculate on how she died. Yeah, I feel so stupid for taking like a while to notice this. But on the last viewing of the show, which I actually rewatched almost all of it last night.
Oh man!
In preparation for this, well, I mean, in total, it's only like a 2.5 hour long show.
I guess that's true. It's basically watching a movie, so.
Pretty much, yeah. It's like watching Waterworld. But I noticed that like the design on her apron are actually gunshot wounds. Yeah, I noticed like on the white part of her chest, she's got like 3 marks, and for a while I thought that they were just kind of like, it was just part of a design, but I think they're supposed to be gunshot wounds. It's like holes that look like they're dripping.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, there does seem to be indication that like there can be marks. I mean, that's the whole thing with Alastor, right? The X on his forehead is where he got shot.
Is that the case? I'm still stupid. I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you notice when Alastor kind of goes more his demon form, you can see an X on his forehead, and everyone's speculating that that's where he got shot. Because that's also, there's an X on Vaggie's eye, but there seems to be an indication that there's some sort of major injury there. We'll see if that ever gets actually explained. But
I'd hate to backtrack real quick, but I think it should also be, it's important to note that as a human, Alastor was a serial killer. I don't think we brought that up, so I just think like that would be important to put out there. back to Nifty real quick.
Yeah.
I still think my favorite jokes in the show have to do with her and especially when they're trying to film the commercial in the first episode. Is like there's just something about it where she is, as I mentioned before, she's manic pixie dream girl who is an unstoppable force, always moving, always like hyper focusing and being active and running around and stabbing and doing everything. But the second you tell her to like act and be on camera, she just completely locks up.
Yeah, she basically just stares blankly. And they also had the sound effect of like hollowness, like
Action. You're doing great, vagina.
Cut!
Honestly, like that to me makes it a tiny bit less funny to me. But like the first shot of her doing that where she switches off and it's just complete silence, that to me was just astounding.
And also it comes back because when she has like the little interview and she stabbed Adam, she also stares blankly into the
Yeah,
camera.
it shows her. It shows her on the news and all the. She's all mic'd up. Everybody's got a mic in her face. Everybody's filming her, and she's giving that same look and not saying anything.
Basically, she's the person who is like lightning and a ball. 1 second is just doing her normal thing, and then the next like doing something batshit insane.
I would say that she might be maybe my second or third favorite character of the show.
I don't know where she would rank. Maybe 4th, because I think like Charlie, Angel Dust, Alastor are like in my 3. Husk. You start with Husk. I want to see how you would describe Husk.
Just to sort of get it off my chest. Obviously, probably like the big thing in the room is that he's voiced by, I think, by far the most prolific member of the cast, Keith David. Which is just outstanding that they were able to get him, and I think he does a very, very nice job. Yeah, I can't really, unless they were sticking with original voice actors, I can't really think of anybody else I would want doing it. Bit different, but Keith David, I think, is the more meaty pick. Definitely, I think the plus. But as far as the character goes, I like him quite a bit. He's, in a way, I could see him as being a character that would resemble like Angel Dust if he were to age, if he was to stay in the life that he's in, because he's also tethered to Alastor. Only reason he's even at the hotel in the first place is because Alastor teleported his ass there and forces him to stay there and help out. Yeah, they're both tethered to somebody who owns them. He's a wash-up. He reveals in Masquerade that he used to be an overlord on like the same level as demons like Alastor and Carmine. But he ultimately, because of his gambling addiction, he bet that power away and lost to Alastor. I like him overall. He's somebody who largely keeps to himself in a lot of ways. If he's around, he'll stick his nose in something in a conversation and start engaging with the other people who are there. But a lot of times he's kind of just fine with being posted up behind the bar.
Yeah, he's kind of there, and he's basically like an observer. And one thing I would say about him is like he is not afraid to be honest or say what he thinks.
Yes.
Like Masquerade, when he basically points out every single person and explains what their deal is.
This one judges everyone and everything because she hates herself. And Nifty? Yeah. You don't even want to know what her deal is.
He's very good at like rating people. He goes a bit from being starting off individualistic, keeps himself, but gets more involved and grows a bit closer to the people.
If there's anybody that he kind of like takes a liking to, it is Angel Dust. I think probably because of my idea of him probably sort of being like a washed up down the road version of Angel. Because like he definitely their dynamic together definitely shifts after Masquerade, just because of like they finally have like a heart to heart with each other. They both open up about their own problems. Husk, he's still very much gruff about everything, but I think they come away from it respecting each other a lot more. With him being honest, he constantly admits to Angel, it's like, oh, you're putting up a front. The way that you're behaving isn't you. You need to start behaving the way that you would actually want to be shown without any outsider influence.
You can cut the act already. It's never gonna work on me, so all you're doing is making an ass out of yourself with this fake bullshit.
And like I said, he's brutally honest, and he's honest to the point where he can push your buttons, but not always in a bad way, in a good way.
But I will always wonder then, because he knows what's wrong with Nifty, but he's not going to tell us. So I want to know.
Yeah, he just says you don't want to know what her deal is.
And Nifty? Yeah. You don't even want to know what her deal is.
But I do. But I do.
Dang it. It's like you're the only one who knows. Tell us. You have important info, please.
Maybe that'll be a season 2 thing. But who knows?
Next one's Pentious. He was way more involved with the show than I thought he would be.
Oh yeah, lovable loser.
Lovable
sort of.
Loser.
He not as much of a loser as he was shown to be in the pilot. way less of like, I guess, a prude. But I'm definitely happy to have seen him again. He's a curious guy who I think believes, because he has fashioned himself an egg army and built himself a nice enough warship, he thinks he has a lot more power than he actually does. He was very much like a war hawk going into it. He was a part of the chaotic energy of hell that it gives off, where it's just like, this is how things are, and if it is, then what I'm gonna do is partake in the wars. I think it'd be funny, like, I wonder what kind of land he would have acquired for himself in those turf wars. I wonder if he even like had anything that he was holding on to. Maybe he just has his ship.
I mean, that's the impression I get. Like, I don't know if he owns
like
any turf anymore.
He's gonna keep participating, but he's never gonna win.
Yeah.
But then I think it's cool that they don't make him just be like the butt of the joke. Even through the show, he remains very silly, but he does go from kind of like faking the idea of thinking that redemption sucks and he doesn't think that's going to happen, to he basically went into the actual show as he was going to be a spy for the V's to try and find ways to either dig up dirt on the hotel or find its weaknesses. But when he failed at that and was spared, something clicked for him to where he's like, you know what? Maybe the actual goals are worth giving a shot. And so then he went from just being the butt of all jokes into somebody who's still very silly, but is also very curious about what can be done to help him and what he can do to actually contribute to the whole idea of redemption itself.
Well, yeah, the whole reason like why I feel like he stayed is because, like you said, he's a level loser, and everyone sees him as a loser, and that makes him very insecure. And Charlie's kindness towards him helps shift his perspective. Like, someone doesn't see me as a lost cause, a loser. Someone who, like, that's what I think Charlie helped get him down the road. It's like, despite his screw up, she basically was like, we'll give you a second chance. We'll sees potential in him that he has trouble seeing himself that no one else ever sees in him. So, and yeah, he's a super likable. Also, I love the voice actor for this. I think it's a better fit.
Even better than Stamper?
Alex Brightman, right? Is he who did Pentious?
I would actually need to relook at that, because I know Alex Brightman's in the show. I think he's the voice of Adam, but I don't remember if he also does Sir Pentious.
I'm pretty sure he does both.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he does both.
Yeah. So I personally like the kind of that. I think it kind of it's not to say like the original voice actor was bad, but I think this kind of like to me fits a bit better.
Probably a part of it is probably like the camaraderie between Alex Brightman and Vivzy Pop, because he's a long time Vivzy Pop collaborator, so he for sure knows like how to handle his character in the writing and how to like actually deliver him. So that's probably a big part of it as well.
Like, he goes along with the activities, but it has a very funny reaction to it. Like, when he does the little, like, clapping thing with Charlie. It's like, my name's the Pentious, and he kind of claps awkwardly. It's like, am I doing this right? You know?
My name's the Pentious. I like to build, and despite my stupid egg boys, I think I'm very skilled.
I am too sober for this.
He's a very naive person. I guess not just trying to learn that, but like not less so in the show. It's not like he doesn't know what anything is. Like in the pilot, it's like he was fucking clueless about everything except for trying to destroy other people.
a naive observer who is basically trying to build his own, I guess, confidence in like any activity that transpires, you know. And that comes to fruition in the end with his heroic sacrifice, which I will say is kind of a mixed bag for me. Like, I'm glad he got his sacrifice, but it was very short-lived for the sake of the jokes, because Adam just goes like, boop, it's gone. It's like, oh, well.
I mean, I don't particularly mind the execution of like how he died, because it's very much like it's very much like a Polka Dot Man or Rorschach style death. Where
it could.
It's like basically, he just got blanked out of existence. But
yeah, well, I think the idea behind it is like, it's not that he did something. It's like, it's the thought that counts. It's the act itself, regardless of the outcome of said act.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Even though like consequentially he didn't fucking do anything to Adam, like he still, by doing that, stuck it to the man.
Yeah, stuck it to the man, and he got redeemed. And now he's basically like the first successful redeemed soul. He basically jumped from like bottom to top.
Yeah, because like he's, by doing that, it's like prior to that, Charlie's idea is basically just words, but after he's killed and gets sent to heaven instead of just like ceasing to exist, it gives a bit of credence to like what she was thinking about and to what her idea of whether demons could even be saved was. So it's like, now that it's showing, oh, well, he got beamed into heaven, there could be something to this now. And I'm wondering, I mean, I say me, but I know that everybody is definitely wondering how that's going to manifest in season 2. Hopefully, however it does, he's still able to interact with the hotel crew in some way.
Yeah, like, the thing is that everyone's thinking is like, how are they going to find out about like Sir Pentious actually is electing God to heaven? And also it came with the fact that you can, if like your act is like you do a redeeming act and die, you can still go to heaven. You know, it's like, because the idea kind of was like, oh, you can be redeemed, but you can't die in hell, or basically you just cease to exist. Well, this kind of says like, well, maybe not necessarily so. Like, that's the case, but if your act involves an act of redemption that gets you into heaven and you die, you can still go to heaven. It's like, huh, okay. But yeah, that's kind of the interesting dynamics. Like, one, how is hell going to find out about Sir Pentious? How is Charlie and the crew? And also, like, how is heaven going to react? How is Sarah, or the Seraphim, going to react? Emily is obviously happy for that.
Imagine if in the first episode of season 2, it picks up right where it left off with Sir Pentious, but then imagine if Sarah just immediately destroyed him so that it destroys the evidence of redemption.
I mean, that would be extremely unsatisfying and a waste of. I feel like that would be a waste of like a great plot direction.
I agree, but I don't know. I get the feeling that when we talk about plots specifically, we could talk about like the writing style, and I I would not. The problem is that I don't necessarily think I would put that behind Vivian Madrano to do something like that, but I'm pretty sure she wouldn't. Well, pretty much everybody else is supporting characters. Lucifer is somebody we didn't talk about all that much, but he's kind of interesting to me. One of the things I wanted to say early on is that I think the idea of like hell becoming a terrible place, the way that the show handles it with regards to him and how he and Lilith were treated is, it makes me wonder if they're handling it more like the reason hell is bad is because of a series of events brought on by generational trauma because of like those initial events, as opposed to like sinners necessarily, like if they could, they would just be bad without the influence of what happened from the beginning. You know, like it's something that heaven is kind of like set up in this way to where they'll just be able to otherize the members of hell. Like, and so that would also give a bit of credence to Charlie's grand idea of redemption. Of like, well, because of how things started off in the history of the origins of the divide between heaven and hell, maybe like that also keeps sinners from being irredeemable. Like, sure, they could be redeemed, just on the basis of how they are innately, as opposed. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I think so. Well, basically, the act of redemption basically becoming like a universal theme, like in heaven and hell in general. Like the idea that like basically this redeeming for the original thing that started in the first place. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Sort of. Well, I mean, because like redemption is a post-development of hell concept created by heaven after, for like humans to initially be like, well, if you are redeemed as a human, you could go into heaven without having to go into hell. But Charlie's idea is maybe redemption is acceptable also for demons because maybe they're not innately bad. It's just from the series of events from the beginning. It's more of like they're reacting to a world that has been built upon the trauma of the starting point.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can kind of get that. Yeah, the trauma of the starting point that kind of started all this.
If they explore something like that, I think that would make Charlie's point even stronger, because a huge contention that a lot of people have been having is the idea of like, well, is there even like any reason to think that this would work out or that it would even be allowed?
Well, let's go briefly, because we've already been here for more than an hour just talking about the characters. So we got 8 episodes. I think we should just do like brief kind of bit about the general things about them. So, because episode 1 basically establishes a few things, like basically establishes the prologue. That's how this all got started, the history of heaven and hell and all that. You know, Charlie, like the introducing the main characters again, kind of like a reintroduction in a way. It's like last time you saw them was 4 years ago. Here they are again through this deal. Also, I just want to I realized we from rewatching episode 1 that Alastor says advertisement wrong.
Yes. Does he say something like advertisement?
He says like, but you insisted on this noisy picture box advertisement. That's what he says.
But you insisted on this noisy picture box advertisement, so I had a little fun with it.
I didn't hear him the first time. I didn't. It's like, what did he say? It's like, oh, he said advertisement, but he said advertisement. But yeah, you get the backstory, and this is basically where it reveals that one, angels are assholes, with Adam, Lute, and the other exterminations. Exorcist, that's the word, not exterminators. Exorcist. There's a whole sinister backing to the exterminations. First of all, it's like they're doing it for fun. They're moving it up. That they're planning to maybe use this to wipe out hell forever, because of the angel, which was revealed. That was the other reveal. It's like, oh, an angel just got killed. Angels can be killed. And that kind of sets forth, and that's something that I like about each release of episodes, because it was basically, at least in regards to Prime, 4 episodes released, then the other 2 in the sequential weeks. But every episode kind of like, oh, something to keep me invested and look forward to the next one. a new plot point, a new mystery revealed.
It was just cool to see where they were going to pick things up from, 4 years of keeping us waiting. I think the route that they went was interesting in that it's like, okay, so it picks up a week after when the pilot took place. So there's been a little bit of time to parse together some stuff that will be improved upon in the hotel. Now with Alastor's involvement. I like the idea of the first episode being where a huge part of like the B plot is just trying to make a commercial for it. That was fun. Personally, I don't know. Maybe a lot of this is just like nitpicky and being like, oh, well, I would have written a joke like this or something, but...
Well, I do think the original commercial, the first commercial that you see that Alastor made is pretty funny. It's like one of my favorite joke bits.
Do you like blood, violence, and depravity of a sexual nature? Of course you do! That's why you're in hell! Welcome to the Hazbin Hotel, a misguided path to redemption! Here we offer fun things, such as somewhat functional staff, and 24-hour pest control.
And also, like where it says, go ahead and give us a call, or don't. We don't have a working phone anyway. But yeah, and I felt very bad for like Adam's being an asshole to Charlie. Because Charlie is legitimately trying to do some good. And Adam, along with other people, are just knocking her down. It's just like, ugh, makes me intense,
I think it's part of that dynamic I found fascinating is how it didn't really deter her. I don't think from her meeting with Adam, she really evaluated a new way of looking at how heaven may actually be, because he he was honestly worse than probably most members of hell. In the way he was conducting himself. Yeah. But she was still sort of pedal to the metal with the same perspective that she went in with. The difference is just that she feels more rushed to do it because they cut the extermination time in half after their meeting.
Yeah, she still didn't let that deter her in terms of continuing on with the goal. But yeah, that was the other bit of the episode. It's oh wow, okay, heavenly people are assholes, or at least they can be. Okay, so what's really going on here? So you can be as asshole as Adam and still be an angel, like an angel's fall. That was my initial thoughts. There's shades of gray all around this.
Part of what I think is going to make this discussion, now that we're talking about the story itself, very interesting, is that I am convinced that you have paid a lot more attention to the songs than I have.
Well, I maybe so. These songs, I've also listened to them more than once at least. But I love the clever use of the lyrics. It's one of the things I love. One of my friends of mine pointed, like in the Stayed Gone song, how Buck says with Alastor, now his medium is getting bloody rare. Using medium as both the form of a way a meat is cooked, but also as a type of media. It's oh, that's a clever use of that word.
While he hid in radio, we pivoted to video. Now his medium is getting bloody rare.
I'm not going to be disagreeing with you much in terms of the quality of the songs and how they're written. But one thing that I think is, before we start talking about episode to episode, an overarching thing that I'm constantly thinking about the show is how I am not a big fan of the overall formula where every episode has gotten 2 songs, and they're usually one always comes at some point near the middle, kind of either as the second act is starting or in the middle of the second act, and then to kind of close, usually to close off the episode or come near the end. And while I think the songs, for the most part, pretty great, I think it is probably the biggest pace destroyer of the entire show. Probably.
Too fast?
No, the way that it breaks the episodes up is part of, I think, the main issues that the show has with its pacing. Because I think that the series, it feels crammed, but also flies by so fast in a way there's a lot to it where I don't feel as though like it really emphasizes things that really could be emphasized to, I think, just make the ride a bit more interesting.
Okay.
Like,
so
I think that even though I think the songs are good, I think it has a notable effect on how the episodes play out in general.
So you're saying that basically, like, things that either, in terms of what's happening on screen, things that maybe, for example, like things that could be emphasized more, might be interrupted for the sake of a song.
Oh yeah, because a lot of times the songs serve as a combination of like a recap and just a bit more of a furthering of a concept that's been introduced. And they're, as nice as I think they are, they, I think, do a magnificent job of interrupting the story itself. Because it's one of those cases where they just sort of like, a lot of times they start spontaneously. I'm able to guess when a song might start because of when I'm noticing how they're popping up in the episodes, but you don't know like what story element is just going to make it start.
On that point you were mentioning earlier about the song and like interfering with the pacing, perhaps like maybe an example of a good song would that be like the You Didn't Know? Because in that song we have M, Sarah, Charlie, Adam, Lute, and stuff like. And throughout that song itself, it's revealed like basically to the entire court of kind of the whole sham this thing is, and also reveals like, oh, there's yearly killings going on in hell.
Like, yeah, I don't think every song is useless in the show. I just think that the way they're implemented messes with the storytelling. In general, just like as a template for how it's written.
Okay, yeah. It basically kind of takes away.
Yeah, because like there are moments, like for me, Poison is what comes to mind. I think that fits where it shows up pretty well. That's a good one. That and Loser Baby at the end is like, I think that those are like the best usages of songs in the show. Because to me, where they pop up and where they come from also makes sense to me. Like it's not the most out of the blue examples. It's ones where it's like, oh, you could see this segueing into a musical number.
Okay.
As opposed to like in season 3 or something where it's like just during the meeting with the other overlords, they just break out in song.
Oh yeah. The Respectless song. Yeah. So basically the main complaint is that you kind of wish the songs were better placed, more fit in with what was going on, and had a more direct, I guess, involvement to forwarding the story, plot, character arc, that kind of deal.
And also, there were fewer of them.
Yeah. There's two songs. I mean, that in and of itself is kind of impressive. It's like, dang, they had 2 songs per 22-minute episode. Like, dang, that's a lot of songs to write. And yeah, some of the songs, like personally, it's like, I don't really. That song's not really memorable, but to me, it's not one I would pull up. But some others are really good. Episode 2, like the main things. We kind of talked already in regards to like when we talked about Sir Pentious, because that kind of starts his involvement with the hotel and like gets a little bit more revealed about kind of like how he views himself. Like that basically he just sees himself and everyone else sees himself as a loser, but Charlie sees a better side of him. We also see you get introduced to like the V's. This is the first episode where you see Vox, Velvet, and Valentino. And you actually get to see them talk. They're not just in the background.
The fans have been satiated.
Yeah, they've been satiated for so long.
Finally get to see them in action. It's not just that 4 seconds from the pilot where you see them together, but they don't say anything.
And there's like some very funny bits in there. Love is like when Valentino has this little rant and he's like, "What's wrong? Did Angel quit?" "No, worse. He moved."
Angel quit? No! He didn't fucking quit! It's worse! He moved! See? Look at how he flirts with that guy, and he's not even paying! Who is that? I'm gonna fucking kill this whole fucking family!
Like I'm trying to figure out the way to describe it. It's just like a funny little tantrum. like an entertaining little tantrum. But also we see through there, like, when Valentina reveals, oh yeah, Alastor's back, and Vox gets very triggered. It's like, there is a big feud here. They have that little Stayed Gone musical number to highlight that.
As for episode 2, one thing that I think could have really improved the episode is, like, if there was at least a sliver of interaction between the V's and Sir Pentious. For one, I think that would have been hilarious, like, just for him, like, meeting with them and them discussing their plans to infiltrate the hotel by using him. I think there could have been some funny stuff to come from that. But also, I mean, just because you introduce Sir Pentious early on, you introduce the V's early on, but they never, like, really make the connection, I guess, other than, like, they use him to infiltrate because they assume that everybody at the hotel thinks he's a loser. So, like, that he's, like, a harmless loser, and that's why they use him. But then it's funny that he kind of, like, gets caught immediately once he tries doing something to advance their plan. But I think that, like, from a storytelling perspective, it would have benefited the episode greatly if there was just, like, a moment where it's like, oh, we'll pluck him up and relay this shit to him and let him know and everybody else know the expectation that you're going in as a spy. Because, like, part of the season 2 episodes, like, that I have a bit of an issue with is that Sir Pentious believing that he could be redeemed, it stems almost directly from, like, the way the episode plays out. It's like, oh, well, I could be redeemed after failing to gather information for the V's, rather than it seeming like he's buying into the idea of redemption itself after, I don't know, maybe, like, growing tired of Warhawkish ways. Because that kind of sticks around with him for at least another episode or two, because he tries smuggling weapons into the hotel in, I think, the next episode.
Yeah.
But what do you think of that? I think that there was more potential to include something where it's like he's with the V's and they're actually, like, laying out the plan, like, you're a loser, you're fucking perfect for this job or something. But that also kind of plays in with, like, me saying if they didn't put an emphasis on there needing to be 2 songs per episode, something like that, maybe they could have taken more of that energy and time into writing something like that makes it feel just a bit more of a fleshed out idea.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can kind of agree on, is that it is rushed, and it's a lot. I mean, it's a 6-month period and 8 episodes, basically. Because it basically starts with the end of the first extermination and ends with the second one. So,
and I know that the project, of course, like, the community surrounding Hazbin is a big part, I think, of, like, the vibes that people get from it. Because Vivian, of course, she has her own vision for the show. Because remember, like, when it came out, and for a while after, there were, like, animation streams and stuff of the crew getting together, reading off, like, fan suggestions, having more interactions with them, and sometimes even, like, the voice actors would fuck around and just do stuff. And that created an energy that, to me, made the overall concept of the show a lot more lovable. Because it's like they're showing what they can do. They're showing what they could do with these characters, but in the show, it could just be also a consequence of having swapped out all of the original voice actors for new ones, where I don't really get that same feeling from this iteration. The characters are there, and I think from what had been established feels on point with who they were as characters in the show, but I feel like the idea of Hazbin Hotel was greatly influenced by how a lot of the original crew and cast interacted with the fans. And it doesn't feel like they carried over much of that, that, like, people like Edward Bosco and Michael Kovac would do with each other into this main cast. That could be because of like the upped professionalism of the show, but that's the element of that and like incorporating that style of humor that they could just like improv off of each other. I think that's like another sort of like big detractor for me. I still am very like on board with Hazbin, but I think that maybe like one of the problems with switching out the voice cast is that a lot of that may have been lost in terms of actual characterization and carrying that sort of like riff and humor style over into the actual show.
I think the idea is that the camaraderie with an interaction with the fans bit is missing with the new cast is part of it, what you said, right?
That's a big part of it, yes. I'm thinking that like it's a combination of stuff like putting a lot of emphasis on needing to write new songs for each episode, and maybe like that natural camaraderie that the original cast had not being able to be brought over into the show version, I think is kind of like, it feels like there's a bit of like a writing quality dip from that.
But I mean, I understand the general idea. Like, just to bring up an example, maybe not the most best one, but one that instantly comes to mind is the It movies, the clown. The camaraderie and sense of companionship is way better with the kids than the adults. It's way better in the first movie than the second movie. And that's not necessarily, that doesn't incorporate like the fan aspect to it, you know, the fan community of that. But there is a bigger sense of camaraderie with the kid group than the adult group. Now, there are some bits that I feel like may have been like implemented. Don't know if either it was Vivian's intention or if it was brought about by fans. For example, like Pentious and Cherry Bomb. Don't know if that was like an original thing or if that came about, because I know that there was big shipping between the two in the community.
I could see it having been part of the idea from the beginning. Because, I mean, I don't know. They start off in a way where, sure, Cherry Bomb is very much just, I mean, they're adversaries. But I could also tell from Sir Pentious's personality that, yeah, there could be an aspect to him where it's like, oh, I'm liking people. And the way that they're both going at it with each other in combat is like, it feels like they're both having a lot of fun with it. So I could see the crossover of those feelings coming about, even from, maybe from the start even.
Yeah, it could have. I mean, it's basically like a playful rivalry kind of deal. Yeah, and like going back to the original plan, it's like, yeah, it is a bit rushed in terms of the overall pacing for me. It's like only 8 episodes. Like, feels a little, like, already that feels a little short for at least the long time we waited. I would have been fine with like maybe 12 rather than 8. I guess they're doing like the same Hell of a Boss format because Hell of a Boss is also 8 per season, it seems. You mentioned with Pentious, yeah, he in episode 3, he's trying to snuggle in because he doesn't trust like why people are being like nice to him, and that's fairly fine. You know, you're in hell. This is not a place that you would expect to be treated nicely to. And then basically this is where the whole trust exercise bit comes in with the trust falls and the engaging in combat. Basically them growing to trust a little bit each other at the end. They start to build that camaraderie a little bit with those exercises that they put on. This is also the bit where we kind of see Alastor tasked to take care of Sir Pentious' eggs, but he has a better use for them. This is also the episode where the angel is revealed to the overlords that they can be killed, and that it was Carmine who did it, and that she houses the secret to knowing to kill them, but doesn't want to start a war, an uprising with Heaven, start a bloody war that might get her daughters killed, because Carmine very much cares about her daughters and is not willing to sacrifice them for the sake of trying to beat Heaven. And kind of we see here, like in terms of Vaggie, like when she's putting through the trust exercise and stuff, like going back to like she's doing this for Charlie and wants to be like her support. So that's kind of the big things that's like in this. So I already mentioned the joke, like one of my favorite jokes with Nifty throwing herself off of the platform over and over again. And also when like she's so eager to be thrown into the midst of the battlefield, she's like, my turn, throw me. And then when she's about to be thrown, she's kind of like in this pose, like, oh my gosh, yes.
My turn.
And then the little fun thing is that you notice in the background after like Charlie puts her down, she's looking over the edge and she's like, are you gonna throw me? No. And then she basically like pulls herself over and goes down. And also like Husk doesn't get thrown because he basically just slowly backs away and just closes the door.
He just leaves because he wants to avoid Nifty at all costs.
No, it wasn't getting involved in battle. It's like, nah, I don't want to do this with Nifty. No.
Yeah, pretty much. Like he'll get involved in just about anything, but once Nifty joins in, like when Angel Dust proposed the idea of using bondage as a trust exercise.
Yeah.
Husk was all for it, but then Nifty busted out the dominatrix outfit and he just got up and left.
I don't hate this.
I'm ready to punish some bad boys.
Never mind, I'm out.
No bond is formed stronger than through bondage. That's their motto.
I did like that they had like a poster in that room for it.
Yeah, they had a poster. I also love how Sir Pentious is kind of like holding things like, no. The end of it, you start to see, like I said, the camaraderie. It's like, oh, they laugh about their little fights and their little experiences today. And, have like little nice things to say about each other. And that's the general theme as it's going to play along. Getting used to each other and find connection with each other. Now, episode 4, Masquerade. I'm pretty dang sure this is still my favorite episode. Not because it's the most emotionally pleasant, but how emotionally it impacts me.
Yeah, I can believe that.
I don't know. I would have to see IMDb and the other things, but from at least when the first 4 episodes released, that was the highest rated.
I checked it. Right now, it's the second highest rated behind the finale.
Yeah, finale. That makes sense. And this kind of goes back to like what I would consider one of like the main things, or at least things I learned about when in terms of like learning how to write or like how stories are written. This was before going to college. I was just looking up how do I write a character to connect with, and I kind of couldn't figure it out. And basically, I found this bit where it's basically like it's not their traits or anything. It's not how many traits they have. It's about their vulnerability and their weaknesses. And episode 4 highlights that in Angel Dust immensely. General thing with humanity, like we do value vulnerability because it helps with feeling closer to someone a lot of the time. This episode is the most emotional roller coaster, and it doesn't shy away from what Angel Dust has to go through. This is also, I think, the only episode where it's like says is 18 plus and the rest are 16 plus according to the rating system.
Yeah, but like that could also just be because America is really weird with sex.
But yeah, the whole sexual abuse.
It was intense. Like, it was emotionally and content-wise, it was really intense, but, like, that could just be because of the sexual content, why it's rated higher.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit. But also, like, I think I was told by a friend of mine, you can, I guess since you rewatched it last night, this is true, did they add a trigger warning?
Not that I recall.
Oh, really?
Like, is that what you heard from somebody else?
That's what I heard from somebody else. They said this came out like after it was initially posted, and like, oh.
I may have missed it. I may have like been stepped away from that moment when it would have shown, but I mean, could be there.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it was there because I do think it's kind of warranted.
But like I said, this is like the episode that made me like push Angel Just higher to be on my like character list, because he was either 3 or 4 initially, but after this I'm like, I feel like he might be my second. This is where he basically dives into like how he deals with his pain, his facade that Husk keeps pointing out. Like, you're putting up a front to like hide your real self, or just and hide your pain for a multitude of reasons, to not be reminded of how crap his life is. And when Angel Dust breaks down and like when he says like, it's not an act, it's who I need to be, this whole thing is my escape, makes me forget how much I hate everything and how I don't have to remember how much this hurts. And he's partially doing this because he just wants to be free of Valentino. He's like constantly ruining himself, thinking that maybe if he ruins himself enough, after giving that whole spiel, I have the feeling of, just wanting to pat his head. It's like, it's okay, don't worry.
Which is all the more tragic because his reasoning of maybe if I appear more broken, it'll get to a point where Valentino won't want me anymore. Which is that is pretty sad on its own. But obviously, like, because of the abusive nature of their relationship, the problem that he doesn't pick up on is that's exactly where Valentino would want him to keep going. He would want him to feel more and more and more broken, because then I don't think under any circumstance he would just let him go. So it's like, if he just keeps breaking himself, he's not climbing out of his problem. He's digging himself a deeper hole. Because it's like, then Valentino's going to keep him around. He's just going to be more broken from thinking that it's saving him.
Well, in the scene where Valentino, I really got the sense of his fear. I think the acting was really, really well done. Just seeing the expression on Angel's face, and also the voice acting, is like, it really sold me. Like, holy, he is legitimately terrified right now.
You think she can get you out of work?
No, that's not what I'm trying to do. No.
And also, same bit with like when like Charlie comes in to the studio. Angel does not want her to be here, which I believe for the sake of, one, he doesn't want to not only create more trouble for himself, but also does not want Charlie to be around him.
That may be the case, but in a way, like, I think that Charlie could take on Val. I just think that Val knows that he has Angel Dust broken to a point where, even though he's conscious of what he gets put through, that he could still convince him to back him up. A lot of times, abusers just coast on perceived power that they have over people.
Val could potentially like ruin or hurt their relationship, even if like at this point it's not that strong. Angel asks Val, like, don't hurt her, please. I'll just tell her to leave. I'll get her out of here. There's a slight, I do get a slight sense from Angel that he does care for Charlie's safety in a sense here.
Oh yeah, I don't think there's any question to that.
But also the other thing is, like, there's despite her being the Princess of Hell, she doesn't have much respect at all from anyone, regardless of the lowlifes on the street or the overlords.
It's like a basic royal family conundrum. Like, sure, it's like, oh, they're propped up. They're the royal family, but, like, I think of, like, the royal family in Britain, and I'm like, I don't give a fuck about them. Maybe, like, a lot of people in hell feel the same way. It's like, oh, well, she's royalty. Sure, there's aspects of her where it's like, oh, I have the interests of people at heart, but maybe they think that she's a very bad communicator, and just by her standing of being part of a royal bloodline, it's like there's just disdain for her in that respect.
Despite the fact that she's the Princess of Hell, and this is the reasons you just explained, no respect, or like does not see like the reason to be respectful other than not having any beef with Lucifer.
Pretty much, yeah. Like, yeah. That's why I think most people sort of treat royal family with kid gloves or feign a lot of respect, is for stuff like that. It's just a matter of you don't want to deal with the power behind it.
Yeah, usually they don't want to deal with this. Like, I've got enough on my plate to deal with it. I don't need this again. I don't need this introduced. And then this is also the episode where we see like Husk and Angel make their kind of like first connection. Like two characters who always seem to be at each other's throats in a way, constantly pushing each other's buttons in the wrong way. Now finally have something to connect with. And that whole bit with the song, with Loser Baby, which I think safe to say that's probably my favorite of the entire soundtrack. It's just so, it gives me like 1950-60 musical theater vibes to it, with like with the use of the instrumentation, like the trumpets and stuff. I think it just really pushes all, it tickles me in a nice way. But they basically let their wall down, and that's a line in the song, but letting walls down can sometimes set you straight. We're all living a shitty life, and let's just face that. We're in a shitty place right now, and let's just own up to that.
True.
That's kind of the deal, I think, and that's kind of what might make that my favorite episode. Again, not because it's emotionally pleasant, but just because of how great it does everything in terms of what happens in this. And also with the Loser Baby being my favorite song. Is there anything you want to say particularly about episode 4 that I have not?
I hope Angel Dust gets to be sexy on his own terms.
Yeah, of course. That's what we want. Episode 5, so this is the one with Lucifer comes in. We got to kind of get to see Lucifer. We see that basically there is daddy issues with Charlie and him. Relationship is not all tight. Their family split. It was like, oh, Lilith and Lucifer are not on good terms right now? Isn't that, I think that's basically the first episode where that gets mentioned, like, oh, they're kind of split right now, kind of like taking a break or basically not talking to each other at the moment. And we get to see Lucifer's basically like lack of creative conundrum because he's just basically building a bunch of ducks. Honestly, seeing all that ducks reminded me of the like Veggie Tales, King George and the Duckies or something like that. Something I watched long ago. That's all that reminded me of. Yeah, but basically he's like, well, maybe he can give me a meeting to heaven. So basically they call, and basically she wants to show him, like, let me show you my hotel. Let me show you what I'm trying to do here. And he gets happy about that. He's like, oh my gosh, my daughter wants to see me. Take that, depression.
My daughter wants to see me. Take that, depression.
I love his face on that. And then we get to see kind of like the rivalry between Alastor. Also, this is the first time Alastor curses, is it not?
Well, it's not very clever.
Fuck you.
Okay.
Maybe?
Or at least an F-bomb. I don't think he said fuck before this moment. I don't remember at all.
Oh, I just remembered how, like, a part of him initially is, like, the idea that he was going to be, like, this largely modest character in terms of how he conducted himself. Would try, like, not swearing all that much. I'm just now remembering that from, like, when... back, like, 4 years ago.
He acts modest. He doesn't use, like... foul language. He doesn't talk about sex because that's not in his character. So when he's said fuck you to Lucifer, I'm just like, oh wow. I was kind of surprised, like, ooh, I've never heard him say that before. And when we talked about like him potentially doing this in spite because he might be under Lilith's control, it's like, I can see that happening. There's also one of my personal favorite songs. I love the Hell's Greatest Dad song. I think it's very catchy. And then it just gets interrupted with Mimsy finishing it off.
By the way, I fucking hate Mimsy. That's something you get to say earlier. But,
okay.
As a character, I despise Mimsy.
Okay.
She gets on my nerves.
Go ahead and expand on that, because personally with me, I'm indifferent to Mimsy. And yeah, I do find her a little bit slightly annoying. But why do you have a strong hate for her?
Okay, well, it's not like the strongest hatred ever, but I mean, basically, yeah.
You don't like her.
I just think she's really annoying.
Yeah, understandable. I agree too.
I know she's been one of those characters who I think a lot of people have been waiting a very long time to see, but I did not like her. Like, I get her importance for that episode and how she moved the plot along, but just as a character, I would not be upset if I never saw her again, unless she was, like, handled completely differently going forward. Could just be a consequence of the pacing, but yeah, the way, just like from what we got of her, damn.
Yeah.
But I dislike her on, like, the level of how much I dislike Adam.
I wonder how the Hazbin community would think of that.
I haven't looked into it, but if you don't express love for every aspect of the show, there are a lot of people who will crucify you.
I don't doubt that. That's like with every show. There's shows that have absolute loyalists who will not take any form of criticism.
Oh yeah, it's not unique.
Yeah, no, it's not unique to there. Put on the notes, like I noticed, like when we watching this episode, how they put welcome, but it's spelled C-U-M, and also they also put up the "It's a Boy" banner. It's like just this nice little funny details in the background for the decorations. And also, I love how in the song, like, hey, like check out Daddy's reviews on Yelp. It's like, oh, how nice, Yelp exists in hell.
I believe that.
Yeah. This is the first time we find out that Alastor is on a leash. Because Husk basically outright says it. Almost gets killed for it. gets threatened by Alastor for daring to mention that. Alastor does not like being reminded of that at all. Here we see Lucifer, you know, the effect of his punishment that he received on himself, because, like, he's only seeing the worst in people down here. You know, he's saying, like, to Charlie, he's like, Charlie, our people are awful. They are given free will, and look what they did with it. He doesn't feel as positively as she does. In terms of, like, I don't think these people might be worth the time.
Our people, Charlie,
Are awful. They got gifted free will, and look what they did with it. Everything's terrible.
That's what made me think of, like, the idea of looking at heaven and hell being the way they are. Hell especially because of generational trauma. That's the main thing that got me thinking of, was that line. Because of, like, the way that it's like, oh, he started everything. It's not that he was bad or good. Or, well, I mean, I think he was good. But the way that things escalated and hell just became more and more detached from heaven, and it was full of people who sort of, like, got used to the way things were and stopped caring about things. That him saying, like, his view of how he viewed the citizens of hell was kind of what got me thinking of the idea that maybe it's more like a response to the way their world is and how it's been built up, as opposed to an innate suckage that they have as people, as souls. So, like, that's my reason for thinking why Lucifer is in the wrong for holding, like, that view of what hell is supposed to be, or, like, the kind of people it's filled with.
He has that view, but that could have just been built up. That might not have been what is initial. Because he lost his creative deal. And also the trauma inflicted on him by, like, heaven. Because he initially kind of refuses to not make the meeting with heaven. And you can tell it's like he doesn't want to go back there. He's like, I don't want to be crushed again. I don't want you to get crushed the same way I was.
You don't understand. Heaven never listens. They didn't listen to me. They won't listen to you.
It's a very interesting deal, yeah, and it's definitely trauma. You can see the trauma. Oh, I forgot to mention. After Alastor fights off the gang shark people, and by the way, there's a really funny gag. There's a funny gag where on one of the frames where you see them, like, trying to bust the door with the log. One of the gang members is just, like, laying on it like this in the back. But he's like, I'm contributing here, even though he's not tall enough to move it. He's just... but Alastor tells Mimsy that she needs to leave because, you brought danger to this place. Now, the thing is that now that we know Alastor's on the leash, was that really him, though, saying that? Or is he telling that because he has to?
The answer may be waiting for us.
Dad and Charlie have their little song. They kind of have their reconciliation, you know, that Lucifer, despite how much he's, like, lost his, like, motivation and stuff, he's still motivated by Charlie. And Charlie reveals, like, also that Lucifer motivated her, like, dreams are worth fighting for. Lucifer agrees, like, okay, I'll get you the meeting, but I can't help you past that. And then it basically ends with, like, seeing Vaggie is not excited to go to heaven. You're like, wonder why.
Aside from the last scene with Alastor and Mimsy, one of my favorites of the whole show, where Alastor basically just tells her to leave the hotel the fuck alone. Because he's not playing around with the hotel. It's like, it's either he's being controlled to make sure things run smoothly, or he's taking genuine pride in being part of the project.
Yeah. Either way, it's like, you're not making this thing a joke. So go away. Bye. Leave. So episode 6. This one was also a big one.
Episode 666.
Yeah. Honestly, that would have been funny if that's what they actually put. That would be perfect. Whoops, it's Little Angel dust.
Oh no.
Little Angel.
Stay with me, baby.
Anyhow, so Charlie and Vaggie are getting ready for heaven, for their trip, and obviously Vaggie is not excited to go there. So there's an interesting thing of, okay, so why is that? You know? And at this point, it's not super clear. And then this is also where, this is also a funny part as well, because Angel comes in after working a long 15-hour shift, and then Nifty asks, you look messy, what happened to you? And he goes, it's who happened to me? And the answer is everyone. Twice.
You look messy. What happened to you?
It's who happened to me. And the answer is everyone. Twice.
And I love how he sticks his head back into frame to say the twice. And then Cherry Bomb comes in. At first reintroduction since the pilot. Now has is it a British accent? Or is it
I think it's Australian.
Australian? Okay.
Like, if you ever want to find a way to figure it out, Australians sound like they work in British junkyards.
Got it. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. So anyway, Cherry has come in to try to cheer Angel Dust up. And we know that Cherry and Angel, like, legitimately do care for each other. They're not just like, just buds that just have fun together. They actually do care. As it was emphasized in the Attic song with some of the frames that they showed, you know? Mm-hmm. And then basically Charlie gets it, Cherry basically paying her to take the rest of the crew out. I also found that a bit funny, where it's like, wait, I'm only here for Angie. Ooh, never mind, let's go.
Wait, I am only here for Ooh, never mind, let's go.
You just brought up Addict, and that made me think about how, like, wow, so far in the show, maybe they realized it was maybe too crammed for this. In the show, they haven't touched on any of her situation really at all. Her and Angel Dust, part of their friendship is they're able to trauma bond over being in two separate abusive relationships. But they didn't really elaborate on her. I don't remember any moment of the show itself diving into it from her perspective, but maybe that's something they're just saving, because it was kind of a minor thing that's mostly relegated to the Addict video for now.
Yeah, I agree with that, and it might be interesting to see that in future, because it seems she's now involved with the hotel by the finale.
Or maybe it was an idea that just got dropped from the final product. We won't know until we know.
Yeah, I think the word you said, trauma bond, that's a perfect word to describe their kind of like relationship. And whenever either of them get down, in this case Angel, Cherry comes in to save the day, basically. I also love the fact that after that, when the portal to heaven opens and Charlie pushes Vaggie through and they go in, they don't drive the suitcases. They leave them on the floor. Don't know if that was like legit or was just like a mistake, because they have the suitcases later when they're in like the room. But I just found that funny. It's like, I'm so excited. Wait, my suitcase. And then we see Pentious and Cherry's little rivalry here. And this is where we start to see Pentious. Oh, Pentious has a thing for Cherry. And constantly can't admit it. And constantly screws himself over in the process.
Oh, yeah. But on the bright side, you can't say that it doesn't take him places.
Every time he says, like, I'd like to get you a drink or shot. Or do the sex with you. It's like, why would we do that? Because I'm doing it with everyone.
Just immediately gets dragged into a back room by a group of people.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, God.
Well, like, trying to crawl away and screaming.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, God. That's a terrible sight. Anyhow, so when they get to heaven, they're introduced to the they're at the gates, and it's like St. Peter. And then the Seraphim, Sarah and Emily. Emily's very excited to show outsiders, and they have their little musical number of Welcome to Heaven. And then, as they're going through heaven, Vaggie is still in her, like, not happy to be here face.
Yeah, because she knows that if she shows her face too much, she's going to get got.
Yeah, I don't want to go because I don't want to get found out. But I also can't say no to go, because then I'll have to lie to Charlie about why.
Oh, yeah.
So,
because in her situation, it would be like if an escaped convict went back to the prison he escaped from and was trying to, like, going like, oh, hey, I would like to visit somebody in here.
Yeah.
Can I talk with them, please?
After the little musical number, you see Adam and Lutiken, and they're not happy that they're there. And then it's basically revealed through their conversation that, nobody in heaven knows about these exterminations except for the exorcist and Sarah. They're completely oblivious. Like, oh dear.
So it's like the real government, just trying to keep people from knowing about their war crimes.
Trying to keep people from knowing about their little fiascos that happen behind the scenes. Next big thing is that, Sarah tells Adam, like, to take care of this if you're getting any worse. And then basically this is where Adam and Lude go to Vaggie, and basically this is where Vaggie's story is revealed. So, which was a pretty big one. Did you see that coming? Like, I knew that there is some sort of beef she's had with Heaven, but I was not expecting her to actually be, like, an angel.
I didn't pay her beef, like, hardly any mind, because to me it's like, oh, a demon going to heaven who's not, like, the mastermind of this idea to bridge the gap. I could see why they would hate the idea of going to heaven. But the reveal of, aha, you're a fallen angel that was a complete surprise to me. I didn't see that coming at all.
Was to me too. I was like, holy cow. It's like, that's connected to us. Like, it finally clicks into place. And you see basically that she got conscious, like, she couldn't kill a little kid just because it's in hell. And basically she faced the consequence for that. That's how she lost her eye, her wings. And she basically got found by Charlie. And that's how they became a thing. And basically, this is where Adam basically just blackmails her. Help me shut this down, I'm going to tell her of what you really are. It's like, oh, geez. And then he's always building tension. That's another thing that's like, building tension. What's going to build in the courtroom that's going to finally explode, which explodes basically into the song. Oh, do you love the fact that the club that the crew go to is called Consent?
It was tonally a bit different from, I think, other bars in town. So I think it seemed like it was a bit more laid back, kind of, except Cherry Bomb was also talking about doing, like, every drug under the mantle.
Yeah.
While there. So I don't know if that's an actuality of it. Also, fucking Valentino was there. So I don't know. I guess I don't know about that either. But I do think that, like, for a club like that, Consent, that's a pretty good name.
I'll admit Consent is a good name for a sex club.
That's surprising, yet that
it's just
works.
mellow. It's just mellow, and it's a gentle enough name. It may not be the most vanilla place ever, but it's definitely not like an S&M pit.
But basically, as this goes along, a few things happen. One, you start to see how ignorant Heaven is of, like, everything. Like, they don't know why they're there, or, like, how they got into Heaven. And that even the Seraphims don't know until they come. So that asks the question, like, well, who's making the judgment call then? Who is the one who decides who goes to heaven or hell? Is it someone? Is it something?
Right then, it's like, it just cuts to Lilith, like, playing on an iPad at the beach.
Like she's swiping left and right, like, heaven, hell, heaven, hell?
Yeah, like, it didn't, like, they didn't save her for a cliffhanger. It just cuts to that. I don't know if that would have made for, like, an actual good joke, but the way you were describing it to me in my head, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's where my first question was. Like, if like, the High Seraphim doesn't know, and none of the other angels know how they get into heaven, Adam does not know, then, like, who's calling the shots? Who's the judge and jury and executioner? But also you start to see Angel. They basically showing Angel's progress and stuff. Because initially it doesn't go well at first. He's doing drugs and getting stuff. But you start to see little improvements and changes in terms, like, he's caring for Nifty, making sure she doesn't drink too much, not making a mess of things, not stealing things, And like when he accidentally upsets Nifty by saying she's a mess and she bawls her tears out. It's like, you want to play with the kitty?
I'm the mess.
Yeah, I'm a mess, and that made her cry. It's like, wait, no.
Not a mess, the mess. If you convince her that, I guess that just kind of breaks her. If it's
all Angel just said, why are you being such a mess? That was enough to break her.
Yeah, I'm the cleaner, but I'm also the mess.
Yeah.
It's like, that's like existentially what gets to her.
Yeah, and she's like, no, I fought so hard not to be this. Why am I this way?
That's the cleaning lady conundrum.
And then you also see kind of the interaction, like Cherry's saying, like, start to be less loose and stuff, and Angel's like, well, no, like, Nifty, this is not kind of her deal, and I don't want her to end up in a drought like I was. And then he stands up to Val, which was very satisfying. And, even though Nifty was going over there, even if Angel never interfered, I'd be like, Val can't do anything to Nifty. I would not touch her if I were you, Val. And I love the fact that she like tries to take a bite, like, I just want to taste, or like she rips the part off of him. It's like, for my collection.
Oi!
I just want to taste.
Oh, what the?
For my collection.
But yeah, that was very satisfying to see that. And Husk congratulates him. It's like, way to go. Good job standing up to it. Basically after that is where like the song comes in. It's like that's the like emotion. That's like basically the climax. Like everything has been building in this episode to this, all the tension, and now everything's revealed. Vaggie gets revealed that she was an exorcist. That basically heaven, this whole thing's just a sham, a lie. They don't follow the rules they say. All that. It's just like whoa. And then it basically ends with Adam saying, "I'm coming for your hotel first." And I'm just like, what a crock of shit. I hope he dies.
As a story point, honestly, like, what makes it interesting to me is that they decided to do that. Because I think that it would have cut much deeper if they started just, like, going after Pentagram City as a whole. Like, if they could just drop down and start murdering people who hadn't even been involved in the situation, to kind of like really extra rub it in before reconfiguring and trying to destroy the hotel. Just like with the tone that the series, I think, had been trying to build up to that point, it doesn't feel as like vile as if they just like maybe if they just like intensified the way they were going about genociding everybody else. If they were to go after everybody else before the hotel, it's an extra bit of like, this is your fault, Charlie. We're doing this because of you. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you're basically adding to the it's basically the struggle and the trauma she would have to go through, knowing that, and like something to deal with, like in the episodes preceding. It would be, if that happened, that would be interesting to see. That would be even worse. That would put Charlie through a bigger hell.
Because they know the extermination is already coming, and all of hell knows that too. But I don't see how going to the hotel first would necessarily be weightier in terms of like how they feel the stakes are. If during the extermination, the hotel is still going to be targeted.
I think the idea was basically like that they're going for the hotel first and basically going to destroy everything Charlie has built up just to spite her. But I guess you're saying that he could have added just the killing of just everyone in the city as an extra blow, right?
Well, if they're saying that's their idea. But then I think that would have also made the final battle that much more intense. Like, then maybe by doing that, the members of the hotel could then be, like, proving in their own way an extra bit of worth. Where, like, oh, they're not going to be able to save everybody, but maybe everybody splits up and still, like, tries fighting the exterminators, the exorcists, in different parts of the city, instead of just like hunkering down at the hotel. Yeah.
So basically have a more expanded fight arena.
That would make it feel more like a war, like an extermination attempt.
Well, maybe it might go that way, potentially in the future. Like depending on if Heaven retaliates even more. Because it made it seem like they were going to go for the hotel first. Once that's done, now just proceed with the extermination afterward. But you're saying you would rather have it just happen at the same time. Like they go for the hotel and then the city, and then they have to spread it around, and now more people are involved to try to fight off the extermination.
Yeah, because I mean the denizens of Cannibal Town play a big part in being the resistance to help out the hotel. But I think that it's been built up when they talk about the extermination throughout the whole show. It's like, oh, they're going to come back and target everybody the same way that they've been doing it the whole time, which the people of hell feel pretty helpless against. But then you could take something like using the good that and the knowledge that the hotel staff have of like, oh, not only should we fight back, angels can be killed. They could use that and spread it to all of hell as an idea, as opposed to just, say, going to like Cannibal Town to round up fierce warriors to help them protect the hotel. It's like, oh, if you're funneling all of this towards the hotel, then the worst thing that could happen is the hotel gets destroyed. But then, like, after that, the annihilation of hell, I don't think necessarily would feel all that weighty by comparison. They make it seem like the hotel is the only thing that will, if the hotel falls, then hell would fall, which I never really, like, got that feeling.
No, yeah, and I agree with that. The thing is, I'm not certain if this extermination they were planning. I didn't get the impression that they were planning to kill all of hell. I knew that that's something they wanted to, I think, eventually do. But I don't know if in this extermination they were planning to enact that then and there. But I can understand that. Like, maybe if they had a theme carried of, like, how universally hell is sick, fed up with the exterminations, and if that was more played into, and Charlie appealed to that more, like, and, like, the crew more by showing off, like, hey, we have a chance here. They can be killed. They're not as invincible as you think. And then basically it becomes an Avengers Endgame level battle in the entire spawn of hell. And perhaps it might happen in a future season and episode where it might become more universal scale. Because now that with the end of episode 8, like that they fought and that they were able to cancel it, now that might inspire others to rise up. So that might be where they're going. So, because this is like, isn't this like the first extermination that has been warded off in the entirety of hell's existence?
Yes.
So they'd be like, oh, it's possible? Well, now I want to know how. Yeah, so episode 7 is basically the what we like is called the second act low point. Charlie is at her low. She felt like nothing has gone right. She's only made it worse. She's in her bed crying. You know, this is basically that point in the story. And then Alastor takes this advantage to talk to her when he finds out that she's up in the room alone. In terms of the like something I forgot to mention, the character Charlie, like feeling like a failure and that anything she does is not helping and making it only worse. And, you know, even Husk says that. Kind of gets mad at Alastor, saying all you do is just like happy when you get enjoyment out of people suffering. And then that line that kind of stuck with me is like, just because you see a smile, don't think you know what's going on underneath.
A smile is a valuable tool, my dear. It inspires your friends, keeps your enemies guessing, and ensures that no matter what comes your way, you're the one in control.
And that plays heavily into knowing he's on a leash.
Yeah, that might be the best line of the show.
It's one of them for me, absolutely. And it shows a bit about, like, why he always has that smile. Not just for the sake of appearance, but, like, for it serves him way more than that. So, and then, once, like, Charlie gets frustrated saying, like, the army is coming and they're invincible and I can't do anything about it, then Alastor sees this as a golden opportunity to make a deal with Charlie that he will tell her something about the angels and how they can be vulnerable in exchange for her doing a favor. Now, knowing what we know now, pretty sure what that favor is going to be is telling Charlie to tell her mother to let him go.
That very well could be. Also, I don't know. Like, depending on how many layers deep you think it could go, maybe that's why he explicitly says he's not taking her soul in the process.
Yeah. I think that too. Like, if in fact Lilith is the one who owns Alastor right now, no, he would not do that because that would piss her off. That would piss Lilith off to no end. But that's my guess is what the favor is going to be. We'll see where it goes, how he's going to cash in on that favor. Because it was an official deal. They shook hands and the whole thing became green with green ghosts and stuff and cracks in the wall. And then basically now Charlie tasked Vaggie to go find out about how this is possible from Carmine. And then they go and get their resistance group from Cannibal Town. And then we also get to see Rosie, which I like Rosie a lot.
Rosie's pretty nice. I like her too.
Yeah, she's nice. She pretty friendly stuff and like comforts Charlie in regards to the Vaggie situation.
It's her, and I'll give Mimsy credit for this. I like the way that both her and Rosie are presented, because they're interesting characters in that they kind of help you paint a picture of what Alastor was like before his involvement with the hotel, and sort of like how his life was in hell and the kind of social circle he was a part of. Especially with Rosie, they have excellent rapport. It's like, obviously, when they're talking, it's like they're old friends, but you also get a sense of what Rosie is like, and that she's a leading figure of a place like Campbelltown. Probably, and if I'm not mistaken, she in her own right is an overlord. It's funny when you get to see stuff like that, where it's like little glimpses inside of Alastor's social circle.
Now, also, one other thing to note is that in regards to the deal that Alastor makes with Charlie, this is basically like with Vaggie, she tells, the crew and stuff, like, I can't guarantee your safety, so if you want to leave, you can. Your safety anymore.
Everyone stays!
That's where the camaraderie thing pays off. That's a payoff of their bonding and connection through there, because they're still there, because they feel they have people they are willing to fight for now. That was a really nice payoff.
Just imagine if she comes back at the end. Everybody is there except Nifty's just gone.
Oh, that maybe.
But then if she came back and she still ended up being the one who kills Adam in the end, mm-hmm. I don't know.
I didn't see. I don't know.
Now I know, but even though it might not even be coherent, that would have been one hell of a subversion.
Mm-hmm.
Of everyone. Everyone stays but Nifty.
That would be. I'd be like, I feel it would be the subversion in the sense she's one of the last people I would expect to leave.
You would think that it's basically like her temple at that point.
Vaggie goes to Carmine to get the info, and basically through their conversation reveals why she's been quiet about this again, for the sake of her daughters. She does not want war brought to her doorstep. Carmine teaches Vaggie about how to fight angels, and basically gives techniques you fight as if you are invincible when you're not. You leave yourself open all the time with every swing. You fight without mercy. And then through that song, Vaggie grows her wings back. I guess through the power of love. I guess that's the impression.
I was thinking it's kind of interesting to me. I could kind of see how this could be the case, but what you just brought up with Carmine explaining how to fight like an angel or know the weak spots, it's kind of interesting to me that Vaggie would have to learn that, having been an angel herself.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting that she would have to be reminded of the basics of it.
Maybe that's just how long she's been not one, that she forgot. But I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how much time passed between when she stopped being an angel and to now. So,
at least 6 months and 1 week.
Yeah, 6 months and 1 week. I guess I found it kind of interesting how they kind of delve into the details of how the angels fight and what weaknesses, how you're going to use these to your advantage. So. Then basically you have Charlie trying to convince Campbelltown, including Susan.
Susan.
Basically, Susan makes her lose her cool through that, and that's where they have their little talk about Vaggie might be trying to redeem herself for the fact that she killed thousands of your people, and that her hiding this is not trying to hurt you. Just doesn't no one likes to admit things they're not proud of. Perhaps this is her way of redemption, which is the whole thing the hotel is about.
Which makes me also wonder then regarding her, is she getting re-redeemed by doing that, since technically she was already redeemed prior?
So, well, I guess what they're trying about reform is just the general act of redemption to this. Not redeemed in terms of trying to gain heaven's favor.
Just redeemed in their own eyes, on their own terms for themselves.
Yeah, redeemed in terms of their relationship. And we'll get into that a bit, because I think redemption is one of the definitely one of the themes, but not redemption in the sense of trying to get into heaven. And then basically they have their next little musical number ready for this, and basically it builds camaraderie. Yeah. We cannot take this anymore. It's time for us to go to war. It's a very.
We're not gonna take it. No, we're not gonna take it. We're not gonna take it anymore.
Yeah. So, and then they basically meet up again. Charlie with her army, and Vaggie with the weapons, the angel weapons. And I also love the fact that this is kind of highlighting this episode, but more in the next one. Like, they can kill us by our own weapons. That's so lame. But yeah, and the gang is still there. Camaraderie payoff, like through there, just like they finally have something worth fighting for. It's one of the things that kind of goes throughout, and it's going to be highlighted in the last episode. Which, are you ready to move on to that?
Sure.
Okay. The team is preparing for war, and everyone thinks they're going to die, including Vox. Vox is very much looking forward to this. Charlie gives a little speech. She's saying she each have tried to be redeemed in their own ways. That's where I say where like the theme of redemption comes in, not for the sake of heaven, but for the sake of what they have as a camaraderie.
Like they're trying to now shift the idea of what redemption truly is.
Yeah, redemption is not about earning heaven's favor. It's shifting the perspective of that and what it really means. You know, and then you see the scenes of the crew getting along, having their little, like, drinks, like, for living today and not dying tomorrow. Alastor's kind of watching from a distance, telling me, like, it's so nice to see them find connection. It almost makes me sentimental. And Nifty talks about it, too, saying, like, oh, they let me put on Roach puppet shows without booing. And then Nifty gives him the little crown, King Roach.
I dub thee King Roach.
Oh, to understand your twisted little mind.
And that made me point out, yeah, Nifty's like one of the only people that like touches him, and he's okay with it.
Yeah, he crawls all over her like a cat, or she crawls all over him.
Yeah.
That'd be funny if he was crawling all over her, but that'd be a little out of character right now.
And then we have this little bits of seeing how far our group has come and how they have grown together. With like Husk saying, Angel, like, I guess you have changed. And Angel kind of thinking like, yeah, I guess so. He has that kind of look on his face. He kind of looks at Husk like very appreciative of that little comment. And then Pentious also trying to get out that he likes Cherry but can't. Also, I love the fact that Angel says, you can totally tap that. Besides, I hear he's got 2 dicks. And then her face kind of looks like she's thinking about it. I'll keep that in mind. So, and then basically there's the nice little scene, the little reprise of More Than Anything, where, Charlie's scared. She's scared of, like, it going wrong, being a failure again. But, Vaggie comforts her and saying, like, you've already done a lot. Like, look what you've already done. And then, basically, the battle begins, The angels are coming. Even Adam tells Luke to calm down.
Rip Vaggie's out her ass! You just chill, Loot.
And basically, the battle begins. Alastor makes the shield, and there's another funny bit where Luke's like, they appear to have some force field shield. And I was like, oh, really?
They appear to have some kind of shield, sir! Oh, really? I didn't see this giant fucking shield in front of me, you dumb bitch! No shit!
No shit! And then also, like, where they say, they can kill us with our own weapons? Weak, dude.
With our own weapons? Fucking weak, dude!
And basically, you see, like, them all fight in the ways that they do, Angel has his little hat and Tommy guns. Husk uses his cards. Cherry has the bombs. Pentious has the weaponry, dressed up in his general uniform.
Oh yeah, he goes full regalia.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's funny that like it's mostly him. He definitely dresses for the part, but he goes all out, full general outfit.
Full general outfit. And then basically when Adam breaks the shield, now they have their little fight, which was very satisfying to see. And when Alastor says, pleasure to meet you, Adam, quite a pleasure. I'm about to end your fucking life.
Pleasure to be meeting you, quite a pleasure. I'm about to end your fucking life.
Alastor kind of like just playing with him a bit, even though sadly Adam gets the upper hand, and Alastor has to retreat. And also Vox saying,
this is better than sex!
Also, I want to point out that, like, I think the implication in the moment of the episode was that, did you get the impression that they were trying to make you think that Alastor had died in that moment?
I thought he did for a bit.
Yeah. I was just making sure, because then like he just reappears like during the last song.
Yeah, because I'm like, when he like fades to stuff, it's like, did he die? Is that what his body does when he dies?
Because it's like that's understandable, but also at the same time, it's like, oh, that's just what he does when he like teleports.
I kind of didn't think of it in the moment. I was like, oh yeah, that's what he does look like when he teleports. I forget.
Yeah.
Then we have Charlie constantly like saying sorry every time she like hits with the shield.
Sorry. Sorry.
She launches fireworks in which say like, eat this, motherfuckers. And then Vaggie kind of looks like...
Die, motherfuckers!
So then, since Adam was not taken out, it's basically launching, and it's like, oh, we have to take Adam out, and that's where Pentious takes the decision to make the sacrifice, takes Cherry, kisses her, tells her that he loves her, and she's kind of like, that was kind of hot, and basically goes up into his airship to make the sacrifice.
Yep. It's so like I could tell that like, man, the writers must have been patting themselves on the back for that one, because it's like at the end you're probably thinking like, oh, Sir Pentious and Cherry are gonna be like fucking after the battle or something. But nope, he gets vaporized.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, I feel like, I don't know for sure if that's the thing planned out, or if like that was that because of the fan shipping it, or what. I don't know. Don't know for certain, but yeah, the heroic sacrifice and with the explosion in the background when they kiss.
Yep, she drops her bomb as he kisses her, and it's just like boom, extra, just sort of like very nice little in the moment kind of
explosive proclamation of love.
Yeah,
like I said, I don't know personally how I felt about the usurping where he basically just gets vaporized. Kind of wish like I feel like maybe there might have been another way, just because basically it's like the build up and then boop, up. No, and yeah, it's kind of funny, but at the same time it's kind of like don't know if I wanted that way or if I wish it went another way.
I'm fine with that being the case. One, that means that it was absolutely painless for him.
I guess true,
if there's a plus side to be found in that. But two, that also means that Adam was capable of doing something like that the entire time. And Larry, he could exterminate everybody by doing that, I think, with relative ease if he wanted. But for some reason, he saved that till it's like, oh, I'm in somebody's sights.
Yeah, he's like, wait, what? Boop.
Like, he mostly used it just because it, like, caught him by surprise.
Yeah. And then that makes Charlie snap. Razzle Dazzle become dragons, and she becomes her demon form.
They've done nothing in the show, and then one of them dies.
You're talking about like when when either Razzle or Dazzle just gets sliced.
Yeah, see, you don't even know which one it was.
Yeah, I don't. It's like Razzle, they look the exact same. They have the exact same pattern, same tone. I don't know which one got sliced. Yeah, they guys get sliced, and that's the end of it. You don't see them. You don't see whichever one of them supposedly died after that. And then basically Loot and Vaggie have their fight. Pretty brutal. And then Adam and Charlie kind of have their fight. And then basically Charlie gets kind of little comeuppance by stabbing Adam with her pitchfork.
That's Princess of Hell to you, pig.
So then Loot basically loses the battle, eventually, a very close call. But Vaggie basically shows her mercy. It's like saying, like, how does it taste, to have mercy, which is something you don't give us. And basically she rips off her arm to get out from under the rubble. Charlie is about to get almost killed by Adam, but then Lucifer comes in, like, kind of little, like, tap to the face, and that knocks him down, and that breaks his mask.
Yep, so you get to see the face of the first human.
Yeah, I was surprised to see. I was like, oh, that was a mask the entire time? Okay, that's not his face. That's a mask.
I kind of guessed that it was a mask. I didn't know for sure, but it was cool to see his face. It's like, okay, it's kind of weird in a way, because like, oh, his looks are the best part of him. But I guess that's also a really good aspect of his character.
Then basically, this comes what I think is maybe the funniest joke, where Lucifer, it's like, oh, I'm the only one that matters. See, you mess with my daughter, and now I am going to fuck you. And then Adam's face, then it cuts to Angel, like, raising an eyebrow, and then the most funniest part is Val goes, well, that just got interesting.
See, you messed with my daughter, and now I am going to fuck you!
Well, this just got interesting.
And then they kind of just have their little fight, and Lucifer's just kind of, like, not even having really to try that much, just kind of having fun with it, just ridiculing Adam's like, yes, it's a long time coming. It's like, great to see. Adam gets beaten, but also gets mercy. He says, how does mercy taste, bitch?
From Lucifer.
Yeah, from Lucifer.
But specifically from not Nifty, he gets mercy.
Yeah. He basically just shows, it's his, like, last little speech is just how, like, ungrateful they are, like, to be alive. Like, you should be thanking, how, like, superior he is, like, in every way.
He's treating it like, all this came from my balls.
Yeah. That they're just disgusting little losers. And then gets stabbed in the back, and then it's revealed to be Nifty, and she goes like, stab, stab, stab,
Nifty!
I think it's a good choice to have Nifty deliver the final blow.
Oh, yeah, because she's not... Well, I mean, it's not that she's... It's not that you think she's harmless or anything, but she's definitely not, like, the brute strength or even, like, the main focus of the group.
No, well, she's the little thing that basically ended the general, ended Adam's life.
She's like if the endgame theory of Ant-Man crawling up Thanos' butt and expanding was the actual route they went with.
Yeah. Yeah. The angels are forced to retreat and go home. And then basically you start to see, like, on the news, like, the extermination's been canceled. Nifty blankly staring into the camera again. And then the last little bit is after, like, the battle ended, the hotel's turned to complete rubble, completely destroyed, and then Charlie, in keeping kind of in thing with, like, feeling that sense of failure and sense like I keep messing things up, and then her dad comes in with the musical number saying, like, you realize, like, how much you did. This is the first time we stopped an extermination from fully going through in the millennia. Like, you're not giving yourself enough credit. Like, and tells her, like, don't give up. Like, you've changed my mind about the sinners. You've changed their hearts. And basically the crew is there for her. It's like, well, let's rebuild it. They're all on the same page now. They're all in this together through there. And it's a really beautiful moment. And you start to see, like, how much they have grown. Little has-beens. No pun intended. I think was it you that said, well, no, I think it was someone else. But, like, someone is hypothesizing that the V's might be the next, like, villain, like, for season 2. Or at least one of the main villains.
I've never said that. You heard that from somebody else.
Yeah. It was from Ren, a friend of mine.
The Ren from Cube?
No, her name's Ren.
He's dead.
Don't know how much of a present they will be, but we'll see. But you also see Alastor's little number, where he's basically, like, getting fed up with being in his predicament and just wants to be free. He's hungry for freedom more than ever before. He's definitely not wanting to be altruistic. He doesn't want to die for his friends. That's not how he wants to be seen. But still comes back, just shows up in the middle of the group, just like, here I am. I'm still here. And it's a nice little finale song. And the hotel they built is bigger and better than ever.
To accommodate the people who have most definitely been convinced of what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Who will come flooding in.
Well, do not know, because they fought it for an extermination, but it's not super clear yet, at least to them, that the redemption is possible. Because Sir Pentious has gone to heaven, which is a great reveal. Because basically he kind of comes out on top. He got the ultimate reward. He got the redemption in heaven. It's like, oh, yay! But they don't know that yet. So if they do find out, I'm thinking that will be the catalyst that sends a lot more people flooding in. Because they fought off an extermination, but that's not 100% proof that redemption's possible yet.
Oh yeah, but maybe, like, for the time being, maybe just them being victorious in battle could win a bunch of people over. Just to be like, okay, I'll see what this shit's about. I'll see.
Yeah, true.
I'll see what's up.
I think they'll get some people in there, and if Hell finally finds out that Sir Pentious, that he got into heaven, then that'll send, like, a big wave. Last things to talk about. So we talked a little bit about the music. I said my favorite songs: Loser Baby, I would say Stayed Gone, You Didn't Know, Respectless, Hell's Greatest Dad, and the finale. You mentioned that episode 4 pretty much has your favorites, right? You said Poison and Loser Baby are them.
Yeah, and that's also maybe the one I'm most fine with structure-wise, in terms of like how it was written, how the songs are able to fit into it, and just like just sort of like the journey that unfolds in that episode in particular.
Yeah, the songs are, regardless, because I can see your, like I said, you're complaining about the pacing issue or like it being inserted in and maybe not fitting. Regardless, a decent amount of the soundtrack is very, very catchy, and I think very clever use of like lyrics and rhymes and stuff. And my friend Riley, who also is a big Hazbin fan, has been waiting for this. Said at least he's listened to the whole soundtrack at least 3 times. Love it very much. There's more music for me to listen to on my playlist. In terms of humor, at least other jokes that I have not touched on. I love like the little performance they do when Angel Dust is playing the crackhead and then Sir Pentious is playing like the little innocent child. And then like he ends the performance with like, "Now I am off to not have sexual intercourse before marriage."
I'm off to not have sexual intercourse before marriage. Yes! Oh.
That's pretty fun. How about you? Are there any jokes we have not touched on that are also highlights for you?
I'm gonna be honest. I think we touched on all the jokes that made me laugh. Because this show, and I talked about it a bit earlier, it kind of goes in with how I think a lot of it was written and kind of ties in with like how the community was built up when it was just existing as a pilot, and like the energy that I got from this show versus how it seemed it could have been going. I didn't find this show like probably near as funny as you did, if I'm thinking, and that could literally just be I'm not saying that it's like a not funny show. It might literally just be a difference in how we perceive funny stuff on like an individual basis.
Yeah. Well, not every single joke made me laugh. In terms of like stuff that I find to be my favorite jokes, even some of the things I consider my favorite jokes, like didn't make me laugh out loud. It didn't make me laugh out loud the same way you laughed out loud from the pilot when Alastor says, "What can you do, my effeminate fellow?" And he goes, "I can suck your dick." And then it cuts that little quick insert.
That's like a Zoomer editing moment, though. Like one of those types of jokes where it's almost like I'm gonna react to something like that. It's kind of like he said something to me in Chinese joke from Black Dynamite, you know, where it's like it was a very. I thought it was really funny because of the way the characters have been built up. Just seeing like Alastor's face for like a quarter second with like that sort of tuning sound right after, because I thought initially in that moment it looked like he was super happy with the proposition, but then turns him down immediately. That's what got me about that. That to me is what made that an excellent moment.
Okay, I see. And also just the visual of like the crack behind in the background of that quick visual.
Oh yeah, like it's just shattered. It shattered his hope of them being able to do something without his involvement.
Like I said, in terms of like my favorite jokes, none of them, like all of them, like got a huge chuckle out of me. It's just like little favorite bits from what did. Because like I would say maybe a third to half the jokes were either okay or like didn't get much out of me.
Really?
Well, yeah, like it's like maybe they got me a little nice chuckle. In terms of like actually making me laugh, like I've kind of said already the kind of bits here. Like the things that made me laugh the most were the little sexual intercourse for marriage line, Lucifer saying, "I'm going to fuck you," and then Val saying, "Well, this just got interesting." I'm going to use little bits from this, like from the show for like my reviews, like for future reviews that I make of media, especially when I'm talking about the bad writing. I'm going to just insert that little bit where Angel Dust goes, "Wow, who wrote this? It's great, right? Keep going."
Wow, who wrote this?
It's great, right? Keep going.
I think to me what's interesting is that like I mean, I was surprised when you said that maybe like a third of it didn't really land with you, because for me, about a third of it did land with me, humor-wise.
Okay.
For when I was watching it, I was more of like amused than like laughing with it, if that makes sense. It's just kind of it definitely has like its moments that really got me, but like for the most part, it's kind of just like a casual watch in the humor department for me. Where whenever I watch something like that and I think of like, well, how would I have done it? I personally sit there and am thinking of ways where like I think moments or episodes could have been a lot funnier than they were. But I definitely am not saying that I was like repulsed by how I felt about the humor. As a whole.
Yeah, I agree with you. I would not. Yeah, I would not put this show on if I'm looking to laugh or wanting to find a comedy.
Okay,
and that's what I was not here for. I was here more for the premise and like seeing the characters. Like I really was invested in the characters.
Yeah, like you've been waiting forever to see them again.
Yeah, it's like
and
they're
it's
back.
Cool to finally see them again, and we're excited.
Yeah, we're excited. I was like, yes, seeing them again. It's like, yes, it's like, Vince Culture feels like it's been so long. Last bits, we'll run through this a bit because we've been here for nearly 4 hours. My gosh.
Really?
I think so. Let me see, what was my recording time? 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, hey, if we're having fun, we're having fun, right? Last things I want to talk about, two more things. One is the kind of the themes of the show. One of them being redemption, obviously. It's the plot of the show, and it's a theme in the show. And like I mentioned, everyone gets redeemed in their own unique way, and it doesn't have to be through heaven's eyes. Charlie becoming from like fear of failure and making things worse to actually seeing the good she actually did do. You actually did make a difference. Like this thing of like, despite the failures that have happened along the way, it did come out good in the end. Vaggie being redeemed in terms of like putting the past behind her, that she was an exorcist and that she hid that for so long. But now that she's out, she feels like she's more free from that shackle and can be more open and honest. Angel Dust feeling so low, like scum, feels like he would like to be wherever he can, gets help through Husk and Charlie, rest of the gang, and finally is able to be himself. The next thing I wrote was like family and companionship, from built-up walls to open doors, because everyone kind of had their built-up walls, kind of resistance with each other, but they grow like a camaraderie in the end, to the point where they're willing to fight and die against the Angel Army.
Another thing it can be looked at as is just kind of like the basic idea of really standing behind and supporting an idea for its success, even if it's against all odds. If you find something in it to like very strongly believe in and thinking it can work, then maybe it just takes you to make it work.
But yeah, and it is kind of gross like that. I love that little... That's like there's a little frame during the finale song where they're kind of all like huddled together and hugged. It's like, that's something I would put on a frame. The same way like you made the frame of the final shot of Star Versus.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. It's like, I want to put that in a frame. It's like, oh, look at that. So good. Power family is worth fighting for despite all the odds. Charlie, despite everything against her, does this for her people, even with how ridiculous or hopeless it may seem.
Everyone just kind of learns that, like, yeah, shit does need to change.
Yeah, stuff needs to change. And I put on here that there is slight themes of, like, being better and good for its own sake. Because it's revealed that, like, heaven's basically a sham. And that basically, they're being better for their own sake in their own way. Not because some high and mighty authority tells them to do so. Like Angel Dust has some slight improvements, like helping like with Nifty, standing up to Val, and also with like the other characters in their own ways. Seeing the value of there is sometimes it's good to do good things, even if you don't give it a heavenly reward out of it. Last thing that I have in my notes here is just kind of theories and questions for season 2. We already kind of touched on them. We already touched about Alastor, like whose leash is on it. We think it's Lilith.
The last shot of the show is a shot of Lilith as
Yeah,
well.
on a
So it's
beach
just her-
in heaven somewhere. Why is she there? And, like, is she literally just there, like, on vacay? It's like, wow, she just, like, leave Charlie to fight this herself? Well, I don't know. We have to figure out why she went on this 7-year hiatus.
Maybe she just really, really likes pina coladas and getting caught in the rain.
We'll see. And we'll see, how she, how is she was even allowed, up there? How will heaven and hell deal with the information of, like, Sir Pentious? Obviously, we see Emily is happy about that. Like I said, I love the little squeak sound that makes when she does the little this, like seeing Sir Pentious there. Will heaven try to cover it up? I have a strong implication that they probably will.
It should also be noted, before I completely forget, that one of Sir Pentious's egg boys is still alive. So I think all but one of them were on his ship when he went to fight Adam, but one of them was not on board and shows up after the battle, I think. I guess the others weren't redeemed or some shit. I don't know. I think they might just be dead.
I've seen, like, little fan art comics about them also going to heaven and then, like, reuniting with Sir Pentious in heaven. Oh, that just reminds me. This is actually not written down on my list, but in the Welcome to Heaven song, there's a shot of supposedly Molly, which is Angel's sister, I think? Or, like, that's what they interpret it as? Do you know about that?
That I didn't know he had any siblings.
I mean, I think that's what it's implied, because I've seen, I don't know, like, if this is a character plan, but there's a character named Molly. You can kind of see her. She kind of has a similar resemblance to Angel in terms of colors and look. But at least in, like, all the fan comics and things I see, they are brother and sister. So maybe that might be a thing. So we'll see about how heaven and hell will deal with the fact of Sir Pentious being redeemed. Will heaven try to cover it up? How will they take it? Will this create conflict for Emily? Obviously, she's going to be on the side of, like, wanting to improve, so she actually sees this as proof. She's not going to be on board with, like, carving this up if that's what heaven wants to do.
It seems like Emily and Charlie are on the same page.
Yeah.
With what they want their goals to be. Which, at this point, I think is just everybody to be as the best versions of themselves as they can be.
And I've seen ideas like, because there's a line in episode 6 where Sarah tells them, like, if you start to question, you'll end up falling. It's like, will she do something that ends her up in that fate? She'll fall like Lucifer? Maybe. Oh, I want to know I want to know about, like I said, who's making the judgment calls. Is it someone? Is it something? Like, what? If it's someone, like, who decided, okay, Sir Pentious, you made your redeeming act, or is that just something, like, the universe makes on a whim?
Maybe it's one of the biblically accurate angels. It just looks like a strand of ribbons with eyes.
What do you say, strand of ribbons?
Yeah, the ones that kind of, where, like, their heads are basically just like a sphere of, where it just kind of looks like cut up ribbons and floating eyes, or eyes that are attached to those bits. You haven't noticed those?
I want to look into that to refresh my memory. Let's see. And I guess the last thing would be, like, how is Lilith going to handle Charlie? Because basically Lute tells Lilith that if you want to stay here in heaven, you're going down and stopping your daughter.
It does make me wonder if there was going to be any sort of, like, Pentious levels of redemption among any of the other main members of throughout season 2.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If there's a situation that comes across where any of them could potentially be shown to enter heaven, or show, like, however redemption is going to be portrayed going forward. Like, if any of them are going to see any of that in season 2. I guess that's basically show question wise, just something I was wondering. Also, yeah.
What, you have something else to say?
It just had something to do with maybe Angel Dust, because it seems like for part of his redemption, what he's going to have to do is break out of the porn industry entirely, at least just because of the situation he's found himself in. But maybe that's something that might have to be, like, expanded on even further than just another season.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah, there's a lot of places this can go, and that's good for a show to do that, like, have things to keep us interested, a mystery to keep us invested, to anticipate the next season, to see where it goes. But yeah, that's the majority of my notes, so I guess we'll start wrapping this up. So we'll start with you, Tate. General thoughts, are Despite the small little gripes we have, are you overall satisfied with the show, and would you recommend it?
Oh yeah, yeah. The thing is that like as many improvements as I think it could still have made, there are definitely some things that I could think of quality wise that it's improved on from the pilot. Namely, like I've mentioned with you on and off, like holy shit, the original was literally just like soundboard central. I'm glad that they toned that shit down for the actual show.
Yeah.
Aside from that, there's still, I think, like a lot of writing improvements that could be done going forward. But I was overall very happy to see the characters again. Still love the characters. Still very excited. I don't know if I would settle on saying that I'm satisfied with what I've seen so far, because I do think that it could be potentially much better even with what this season has been. But I'm excited with a lot of the aspects of it. I know it sounds like maybe I've not really given much praise to the music side of it, but obviously I'm like, it's how it's written into the show. Otherwise, I'm like very happy with the quality of it. I think they do a wonderful job with the songs themselves. Yeah, as far as season 1 goes, I'm pretty satisfied, or I'm happy with how it's looking so far, and am somebody who feels excited to see where it's going to keep going, and I would recommend it to people, although I remember back when the pilot was pitched, I would have probably recommended it more on the basis of its humor, but now I would probably just be like, check this out, you might like it. Because I didn't find it as funny as I thought it was going to be, but I'm at least content with what we have so far.
To get my little piece, so yeah, I'm pretty happy with the show overall. We do have our small gripes about it in terms of pacing. I can understand your gripe about song placement. I think I agree with you on that. And yes, I am happy they toned down the sound effects, because yeah, the sound effects for the pilot I think was a little overblown. In the terms of recent TV shows, or at least stuff I'm seeing so far, I want characters to care about, and a lot of the recent shows, not this one, but a lot of the other recent shows just don't do that for me. Either because their characters are nonsense, like their whole motivation and premise make no sense, they make stupid decisions, or stuff like that. Like things that come to mind is mostly like the Disney Star Wars stuff. I could rip into those all day.
Like the Rebel Moon thing?
Well, Rebel Moon, no. I mean like the legitimate Disney Star Wars shows, like Obi-Wan, Boba Fett, Ahsoka. Like, I can't get behind those shows because just of how stupid their characters are, how flat and things. I don't care about them. This show does the opposite. I have characters to care about. I like our characters. I want to see their story, because to me, I need to care about your characters, because if I don't care about the characters, then I feel like I won't care about their story. They're what's going to drive the story. So I'm so happy they gave me that. I love seeing them interact. They're very memorable. They gave me the same feeling I did like when I was a kid with classic like Disney Pixar or other animated stuff that you watched, and like characters you grew up feeling a strong connection with. I love it when a show is able to do that. Like I said, I like the premise idea. I think it's a really interesting idea, and again, what got me hooked in originally in the first place. Voice acting is great. The songs themselves, yes, they're really well made, really well done in terms of the instrumentation, the lyrics, all that stuff. The animation is pretty dang good as well. Their own unique style to it, and it's going to be memorable. In terms of a rating, it's hard to say. Like, I would say it's between an 8 or a 9. I can't decide between the two right now. I feel like I should watch, maybe if I watch the show one more time, I will. But yeah, I would recommend the show. Only people I would not recommend this to, anyone who is getting, like, there's legitimately, like, an epidemic of people out there who are upset. It's like, why is Amazon is being satanic? They're making a show where Satan's the good guy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like, I saw, like, fucking Daily Wire videos about that. I'm like, you idiot. Yeah, that's... just, oh my god.
There's a Daily Wire take on it?
I mean, dude, like, of course, Michael Knowles is stupid enough to, like, make videos about that stuff.
Oh,
Are you
I
kidding
gotta
me?
see that. I gotta see that. I gotta
No,
see
you don't. It's insufferable. Those people are insufferable.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, just to go on a little tangent here. Like, it's not supposed to be like there's like at least like from the couple I've seen. It's like, oh, it's like not biblically accurate. It's like it's not supposed to be biblically accurate. You dumb fuck. It's its own thing.
Really there's no point in engaging with it really though, because like,
Yeah,
well, I mean, if we're assuming they even believe that stuff in the first place, they're doing it on the grounds of like, oh, this is blasphemous, you know?
Yeah,
like,
that mentality. It's like, get over yourself.
yeah. So if it's like, if that's the angle that they're approaching it from, then like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, I recommend the show. I think overall it's satisfactory despite the long wait, and we shouldn't have as long as a wait for season 2. It seems like it's going to it seems like they're planning for it to come out in like 1.5 to 2 years. I am hoping, I don't know if they're going to still do the 8-episode thing, probably. Kind of wish the seasons were longer than 8 episodes. Especially with how rushed it is.
That definitely, I think, contributed to the writing problems.
It's a very fast pace, and I feel like it could have slowed down a bit. I mean, we're all in. Like, we love these characters. Let's hang out with them. It doesn't. I don't need to do it quickly.
Like, imagine how it'd feel if like Sir Pentious was vaporized after like 20 episodes instead of 8, or technically 7, because he wasn't in the first episode.
I mean, more build up. You know, more time spent to form a deeper connection.
I'm torn on an exact rating for myself, but I would give it, if I was rating it, I would give it either a 6 or a 7.
Okay. Interesting. Well, we'll see where it goes. Maybe with the future seasons, we'll see if they improve or if it maybe ties it in all together better. I think that will be about it. If you have nothing else to say, then I think that's where we'll stop this nearly 4-hour long talk.
I'm looking forward to many more 4-hour long talks in the future.
Yeah. I hope that despite how long we've been here, this has been fun for you.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, I'm so happy about this. I hope I genuinely want to do this some more with you for like just a litany of different things.
Okay. Well, I'll keep that in mind, because there's definitely movies like that if I were to make reviews of, I'm like, okay, I have to bring Tate on because he would want to talk about this. To all who watched, thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed our little discussion here, and we will see you all in the next one. Take care. Goodbye.